Chapter 794. Three little fellows, how much longer are you going to hide? Xie Tianyang's body turned into a fiery ball of light and floated above the lake. The glaring light on the ball of light expanded and contracted, and the scorching heat waves roasted the lake water below. Only after reaching a distance of 500 feet did a faint white mist rise into the air. The water level of the lake that was several dozen feet deep was rapidly decreasing at a speed visible to the naked eye. Hee, although the green sea snakes are known as the spirits of the water, you three are still too inexperienced. You dare to enter the central plains with such low cultivation, and even come to this desolate western wilderness? You must have gone out to play without telling the adults in your families, right? Xie Tianyang's words came out from the fiery ball of light. The lake had already shrunk by a third, and the water level had also dropped by nearly 10 feet. However, there was still no movement from the lake. Xie Tianyang frowned, and a trace of doubt flashed in his eyes. Then, he chuckled and continued, "Although I am from the Xiang Palace, I am not afraid of you green sea snakes. However, I do not want to offend you for no reason. I believe there is more than one flood dragon bloodstone. I only want half of it. You three can take the rest. I am even willing to help you three escape from the source of the river and escape the pursuit of the Tenna people and Khoi clan. What do you think?" There was still no movement from the lake. Xie Tianyang's tone gradually turned cold. "Since you are unwilling to cooperate, I will have to use force." Xie Tianyang stretched out his hand, and a raging flame immediately ignited in his palm. As the flame burned, it extended forward. A moment later, a flaming longsword gradually took shape in Xie Tianyang's hand. The Li Fire Celestial Sun Sword had undergone a major change compared to before Xie Tianyang entered the sacred lake. The entire flying sword now seemed to have no substance, and only a dazzling blue flame with a hint of white was left. The Li Fire Celestial Yang Sword slowly rose from Xie Tianyang's hand. The violent energy that was brewing within it made it impossible for anyone to doubt that the moment this flying sword slashed down, the entire lake beneath Xie Tianyang's feet would evaporate, and the surrounding tens of feet would become a scorched desert. The Great Divine Sword Technique of the Purple Sun Palace. A single spark makes a great fire, was originally a set of fire elemental techniques, but Xie Tianyang had successfully mastered it using his sword techniques. He had even been praised by the Dharma adepts of the Purple Sun Palace, who had named this set of sword techniques the Heavenly Sun Sword Technique, and had been passed down in the Purple Sun Palace. With a core forging cultivation level, Xie Tianyang was able to transform the sect's 10,000 years of inheritance, which had been tempered hundreds and thousands of times. Furthermore, he had received unanimous praise from the sect's upper echelons. This Xie Tianyang could be said to be the number one person among the third-generation disciples of the Purple Sun Palace who had yet to advance to a Dharma artifact. However, Xie Tianyang's Li Fire Celestial Yang Sword did not slash at the pool of water beneath his feet. Instead, it drew a strange arc in the air and suddenly stabbed behind him. Bang! After a crisp sound, Xie Tianyang's body suddenly lunged forward, and then he slowly turned around, only to see Li Tong still retreating in the air with a look of surprise on his face. "Brother Li, this is not right of you!" Xie Tianyang's words were light and charming, but there was not the slightest hint of playfulness on his face. Humph! Li Tong's sneak attack had failed, and he had instead been forced back by Xie Tianyang's sword. He knew that he was in the wrong, but he did not refute it. He only snorted coldly, but his heart was in turmoil. His attack could be said to have used all his strength, and it was also a sneak attack, but this Xie Tianyang actually resolved it so easily. Furthermore, the power of his counterattack was so turbulent that he almost suffered a loss. Could it be that this person had hidden his strength before this? Xie Tianyang saw that Li Tong did not reply and only pointed the flying sword in his hand at him from afar. A cold sword aura with a chilling murderous aura permeated through the air. He was going to kill him. It was unknown when the sneer on Xie Tianyang's face had disappeared, but his divine sense slowly extended in all directions. He said, "Could it be that Brother Li thinks that you can do anything to me?" I don't know where Brother Ma is right now, but since Brother Li has revealed his killing intent, I can only ask Brother Ma to join forces. The corner of Li Tong's mouth revealed a trace of a mocking smile. Xie Tianyang's expression immediately changed. So you really have a helper? Several kilometers behind Li Tong, specks of light suddenly appeared. A moment later, these specks of light formed a variety of colors, falling towards Li Tong's back. Xie Tianyang suddenly came to a realization. So it was this Xie who leaked my whereabouts. Brother Li deliberately came to kill me, and not by chance. Moreover, you also planned to gang up on me. Unfortunately, Brother Li's method is not enough to keep me here. After saying that, the light beneath Xie Tianyang's feet flashed. Clearly, he would retreat the moment he sensed that something was amiss. However, as Sam Ling, who had been hiding in the pool of water, did not reveal himself, Xie Tianyang held on to a sliver of hope that Sam Ling did not know why he was hiding here. At that moment, a series of firecracker-like sounds suddenly rang out from the direction opposite Li Tong. Violent spiritual energy fluctuations spread all the way there, causing Li Tong's face to sink. He waved his hand and the Khoi clan cultivators behind him quickly flanked him from both sides. The flying sword in Li Tong's hand flashed, and he took the lead in attacking Xie Tianyang. Although Xie Tianyang was confident that his strength was above Li Tong's, he did not dare to fall into a situation where the Khoi clan was ganging up on him. With a flash of light, he escaped the encirclement of the Khoi clan cultivators. With the exception of Li Tong, none of the other Khoi clan cultivators could keep up with Xie Tianyang's speed. Oh, right. Xie Tianyang blocked Li Tong's attempts to get close to him while saying in a mocking tone, "This Xie has underestimated you fellows. I believe the one coming from the other side is fourth young Master Ma. Are you fellows planning on a pincer attack? A pity the heavens do not grant the wishes of men." Li Tong let out a muffled groan, and the flying sword in his hand suddenly turned into countless sword rays that swam towards Xie Tianyang from all directions. At first glance, it actually looked similar to Lu Ping's water-seeped sword art. A flaming lotus abruptly blossomed above Xie Tianyang's head, and a clump of scorching white light suddenly appeared around him. No matter how many fish made of sword light approach Xie Tianyang, they would all be roasted into wisps of smoke. Xie Tianyang was just about to open his mouth to ridicule Li Tong when he saw the Khoi clan cultivators who had wanted to surround him earlier stop. After Xie Tianyang retreated, the encirclement they had formed earlier happened to encircle the lake. A trace of vexation flashed across Xie Tianyang's face. Since the other party could discover that he was hiding here, how could they not figure out his objective? However, it had become a habit for the great forces to kill off the disciples with potential from the other side. Thus, when Xie Tianyang saw Li Tong charging towards him aggressively, he assumed that Li Tong was here for him. At this time, Xie Tianyang wanted to move forward but was stopped by Li Tong. Although Xie Tianyang was confident that his strength was above Li Tong's, it was impossible for him to defeat Li Tong in a short period of time. As the cultivators of the Khoi clan were about to form a battle formation around the lake, they suddenly heard the sound of explosions coming from behind them. The explosions were getting closer and closer. Then, they saw a chaotic stream of light, mixed with the roars of countless spells and the clashing of magic treasures, smashing into the lake that the Khoi clan had surrounded like a meteor falling from the sky. Chaos, complete chaos. Just as Li Tong launched a sneak attack on Xie Tianyang, the cultivators of the Pegasus clan, led by the cultivator who thought himself to be smart, had also approached the vicinity of the lake. If not for Ma Chenxi's pursuit of sixth brother Lei, the Tenma people and the Khoi clan might have formed a pincer attack and surrounded Xie Tianyang. However, it wasn't too late. Just as the Tenma people sped up and prepared to converge with the Khoi clan, dozens of cultivators from the source of the river suddenly charged out. Both sides were shocked when they suddenly met. The Tenma people were after all used to being arrogant. The Tenma people cultivator at the front didn't think and stretched out his leg. A huge energy giant foot directly charged towards the closest cultivator among the dozens of cultivators that were dozens of feet away. Ah! A scream broke the strange situation between the two sides. Zhang Jiming was the leader of the dozens of cultivators. He was the first to yell. "You've gone too far. Everyone, let's attack together and kill!" Actually, there was no need for Zhang Zhiming to instigate. The dozens of cultivators had already fought back. The Tenma people naturally wouldn't show any weakness. Both sides immediately tangled together in midair. After Zhang Zhiming finished yelling, he shrank his body and wanted to escape from the chaotic battle. He had gathered so many cultivators and naturally knew that his side was just a motley crew. Although he had the advantage in numbers, he didn't have the cohesion of the Tenma people. He could collapse at any time. However, when he wanted to leave, someone had already targeted him. "Zhang Zhiming, it seems that Western Wilderness Palace can only do some shady business of sowing discord." The cultivator who temporarily acted as the leader of the Tenma people had already noticed Zhang Zhiming the moment the two sides met. Zhang Zhiming's expression didn't change. He stretched out his hand and pointed. The Tenma people cultivator was stunned, but suddenly felt something strange behind him. He turned around and struck out with his palm. A violent wave of spiritual energy collided with the thing behind him, and another spiritual energy storm exploded. "Art of heaven and earth reversal!" The heavenly Peakland cultivator shouted, and the stream of light beneath his feet suddenly transformed into 4 horse hooves. Instantly, the heavenly Peakland cultivator transformed into a beam of light to rapidly circle Zhang Zhiming, not giving Zhang Zhiming the opportunity to utilize the Western Desolation Palace's formidable magic technique that was renowned for. Both sides already knew that Xie Tianyang might have found the green sea snake and its location. Although both sides were in a chaotic battle, they intentionally or unintentionally moved towards the direction of the lake. This just happened to cause chaos among the Tenma people cultivators who were setting up formations around the lake. Li Tong's expression changed. He turned around and was about to attack. This time, Xie Tianyang stuck close to him and swept his sword horizontally, forcing Li Tong to retreat. However, Xie Tianyang laughed and said, Interesting. This kind of chaotic battle is rare. Brotherly, don't be in a hurry to command your people. Although the Pegasus clan has come, Brother Ma hasn't come as well." Li Tong's expression froze. Before he could turn around to look, in the depths of the river source, a loud, dull sound suddenly rang out. Li Tong and Xie Tianyang both stared blankly for a moment, before both sides simultaneously stopped fighting. Both of them could hear that something was wrong from the muffled sound, and could see the astonishment on both sides' faces. Since when can Dharma adepts enter the river source? This was the only thought left in the minds of both of them. This time, Ma Chenxi could clearly see that within the flood dragon formed by the wave of white mist, there was a faintly discernible pearl overflowing with spiritual qi. There was no way Ma Chenxi would sit and wait for death. When cultivators cast divine abilities and magic arts, they mostly used their own true essence as a guide, thereby guiding the surrounding spiritual qi to form an extremely powerful power. In this process, although the cultivator's true essence would be consumed, it was at most a guide, and the consumption would not be too great. Otherwise, if these divine abilities and magic arts were all powerful, how many magic arts could they cast with the support of the true essence in the cultivator's body? But now, Ma Chenxi couldn't care so much. The surrounding spiritual qi was sealed by the opponent's sea calming divine power, causing Ma Chenxi to not be able to guide a trace of spiritual qi. At the juncture of life and death, he naturally wouldn't be stingy with the inner yuan in his body. 10,000 galloping horses. Divine power that was passed down by the direct descendants of the Tenma people was fully activated by Ma Chenxi with his own inner yuan. The surrounding spiritual qi that seemed to be frozen was shattered by Ma Chenxi's divine power. Ma Chenxi finally regained control of his body in a certain space. Ma Chenxi didn't dare to be negligent. He put his hands together in front of his chest, and a palm-sized jade talisman appeared from Ma Chenxi's chest. Within this jade talisman, there were strands of green thread-like things. The moment the jade talisman appeared in front of Ma Chenxi, it completely melted. Strands of green silk intertwined together, and slowly condensed into a 3-foot-wide canopy above Ma Chenxi's head. Strands of silk hung down from the canopy. The white mist dragon that was the gentian pearl smashed into the layers of silk, creating a 1-foot-deep depression. However, the gentian pearl was ultimately unable to break through the obstruction of the canopy. It was actually a spirit cultivation level 9 defensive magic treasure, and the silk that was sealed within the jade talisman was also clearly seen by Lu Ping. It was most likely refined from the horse mane of the Tenma people. Countless silk ribbons pierced through the skin formed by the condensed mist of the giant dragon, and entangled towards the gentian pearl in the belly of the giant dragon. At this time, it wanted to capture the gentian pearl. Ma Chenxi understood that this pearl was definitely an important part of the life origin spell formation. As long as she captured this pearl, even if she couldn't break the life origin spell formation, she would definitely be able to greatly weaken the spell formation. However, not waiting for Ma Chenxi to succeed, this gentian pearl suddenly surged with an absolute power, and broke through the entanglement of the silk ribbons, breaking free from within. If the true gentian great spell formation were to display its full power, it could completely cause each gentian pearl to be able to gather the power of the other 11 gentian pearls. Even though Lu Ping couldn't display the full power of the gentian great spell formation, it wasn't difficult for him to instantly borrow the power of the other gentian pearls to explode with 3 to 5 times his original power. Without waiting for Ma Chenxi to catch her breath, the surrounding spiritual qi that had been confined once again expanded, and another 3 giant white mist dragons had already collided with Ma Chenxi from different directions. Even though Ma Chenxi tried her best to dodge, she was still knocked into the canopy by one of the giant dragons. Even though the canopy activated countless horse mane ribbons to block the gentian pearl, the huge power contained within still shook Ma Chenxi's internal organs. She spat out a mouthful of blood, and in the space filled with white mist, it was like a red flower. Ma Chenxi suddenly shouted at the top of her lungs. "Come out, you come out! You are a Dharma adept, yet you come to make things difficult for me, and you still want to hide your head and show your tail. Do you still have the dignity of a Dharma adept?" Lu Ping heard Ma Chenxi's shout in the depths of the white mist, and his expression was slightly stunned. Ma Chenxi actually thought of himself as a Dharma adept. If it was really a Dharma adept who cast the natal formation, would Ma Chenxi be able to hold on until now? Ma Chenxi was frightened by the name of the natal formation, and had forgotten the power that his father had displayed when he cast the natal formation. That level of power was enough to easily kill him now, and it was not enough to make him stubbornly resist for such a long time. Beside him, Sixth Brother Lei had long become numb. Sixth Brother Lei was a lone thief, and he had wreaked havoc in the Central Plains training world for a long time. He had also been in the Western Wilderness, where humans and demons mixed together, and had seen a lot of things. He had seen the true elites of the late core forging stage, and various sects, as well as the various demon clans, and he naturally knew the true strength of these true practitioners of the training world. Even if there were some differences between them, there would not be too much of a difference. However, today, he saw a person who was unreachable in his eyes, or in the eyes of other practitioners, being easily beaten by this unknown mission in front of him to the point of vomiting blood, and not even having the slightest ability to fight back. This had already broken Sixth Brother Lei's usual understanding. Ma Chenxi saw that the other party still did not reveal his identity under the situation where he had the upper hand, and knew that his previous provocation was completely useless. He originally thought that under the situation where he knew the other party's identity, he would use the last life-saving treasure that his father had passed down. As long as he escaped this disaster, the Tenma people would naturally crush the other party into minced meat. Unfortunately, the other party did not fall for it. Since this is the case, the mountains will not change, and the rivers will flow forever. This Ma Si will remember today's gift. In the future, this Ma Si will naturally seek your advice again. After Ma Chenxi finished speaking, he threw another practitioner weapon into the sky. Lu Ping, who was in the dark, felt a huge spatial fluctuation coming over. The gentian formation that Lu Ping had set up was suddenly attacked by this fluctuation, and a huge tearing feeling came over. It seemed that the space in the gentian formation had already established a connection with an unknown place. Ma Chensi saw the pitch-black tunnel that was gradually forming above his head, and his previous panic immediately calmed down. He laughed loudly. "Ma Si, farewell!" However, before Ma Chensi's voice faded, the previous voice came from the depths of the white fog again. "Qin Yu!" When Ma Chensi heard this cold voice now, her heart trembled, and before the spatial tunnel was completely formed, she wanted to plunge into it. However, Ma Chensi's action was still a step too late. In fact, Ma Chensi's premonition was also very accurate. Just after Lu Ping's cold shout, an invisible force suddenly came down from above, as if a mountain had fallen from the sky. In Ma Chensi's panicked and disbelieving eyes, the spatial tunnel that was opened up by this well-deserved Dharma remarkable power was actually so easily crushed by this force. This was absolutely impossible. Ma Chensi's wailing in her heart was completely expressed on her face. If it was other Dharma remarkable power, then it would be fine. Those remarkable powers were more or less accumulated from the core forging stage. When it was used by a Dharma adept, it was not impossible for it to be broken by a core forging stage adept. However, what kind of remarkable power was Ma Chensi using now? This was the remarkable power of space, which was a practice area that a practitioner could only come into contact with after advancing to the Dharma stage. It had nothing to do with the core forging stage, and it was also a life-saving item that her father, the famous Tenma people elder of the Western Wilderness, had personally made, but it was actually so easily broken by someone. The spatial seal weapon in Ma Chensi's hands was different from the escaped seal weapon of the Taishan sect disciple that Lu Ping had encountered. Although the escaped seal weapon also involved the remarkable power of space, it still needed the seal weapon as a medium to be used. Therefore, back then, as long as Lu Ping broke the escape seal weapon itself, then the Taishan sect disciple naturally had no hope of escaping. However, when Ma Chensi's space seal weapon was used, there was no medium at all. It was purely a kind of remarkable power of space. During the process of using this kind of remarkable power, it was almost impossible for a core forging stage adept to interrupt. Even if a Dharma adept wanted to interfere, it would not be easy. This was also because the Tenma people's remarkable power was boundless. If it was any other Dharma adept, how could they make such a magical talisman? However, it was this magical talisman that was actually broken in front of Ma Chensi. Chapter 796. Although Ma Chensi had previously been beaten into a sorry state by the life-bonded formation set up by the mysterious cultivator, suffered serious injuries, suffered a crushing defeat, and lost confidence, he had never felt despair, because he had several trump cards on him, which were enough for him to escape with his life again and again in dangerous situations. However, as Ma Chensi watched his trump cards being used one after another, they were all broken by the opponent one after another. This kind of psychological disparity finally caused this proud son of the Tenma people to fall into the abyss time and time again. But Ma Chensi was still unable to stand firm at the edge of the abyss. After the space ability of the Tenma people sealed with the practitioner weapon was broken by Lu Ping, who was hidden in the white mist, Ma Chensi finally felt his heart sink into the bottomless abyss. This is absolutely impossible! Ma Chensi suddenly became furious. His entire person seemed to have become crazy. How is this possible? How is this possible? How can Father's space ability be broken? Ma Chensi wanted to raise his hands up, as if to push away the invisible pressure above his head, but he did not have the strength to do so. Instead, his arms were pressed parallel to his shoulders by this pressure. Following Ma Chensi's failure to raise his hands, a flying sword, a horned dagger, a fierce wind ability practitioner weapon, a jade talisman, and a pair of horseshoe-like magic treasures attacked at the same time as Ma Chensi's hands. However, as they attacked upwards, they were all obstructed and pulled by an indescribable force, and had no choice but to change directions and fly in different directions. The pressure above his head did not lessen, instead, it shook away the spirit energy that was previously sealed by the sea-suppressing divine art. Monstrous waves of spirit energy surged and shook the entire space formed by the Gentian formation. Even though Lu Ping had always been rich and experienced, when he saw Ma Chenxi consecutively use 5 spirit-nurturing magic treasures and a Dharma resonance device, his mouth twitched in pain. None of these 5 spirit-nurturing level magic treasures condensed less than 8 restrictions. Among them, the flying sword, horn dagger, and the jade talisman were all top spirit-nurturing magic treasures condensed 9 restrictions. Even though the pair of horseshoe-like magic treasures only condensed 8 restrictions, after combining these 2 magic treasures, their power was comparable to top spirit-nurturing magic treasures. Ma Chenxi still wanted to struggle, but a milky white light suddenly appeared from the depths of the white mist and shone on Ma Chenxi's body. Ma Chenxi suddenly felt as if his entire body, including his blood, had stopped at this moment. Then, Ma Chenxi's pupils suddenly widened. Even though he could not show any expression on his face, his eyes revealed a sense of defeat. The 3 gentian pearls faded away from their misty bodies and flashed with an undulating cold light as they smashed onto Ma Chenxi's body, who was imprisoned by the gentian formation diagram. With a crisp sound, an invisible barrier shattered around Ma Chenxi's body. Then, 3 bloody holes appeared on Ma Chenxi's body, and her entire body was thrown backwards, as if she had turned into a bloody gourd. Lu Ping's eyes narrowed slightly. She actually didn't die. Lu Ping watched carefully. Just at the instant when the 3 gentian pearls were about to smash onto Ma Chenxi's body, a jade pendant on Ma Chenxi's waist suddenly shattered. Then, an invisible barrier formed around Ma Chenxi's body. Although the 3 gentian pearls shattered this barrier, their own strength also dissipated quite a bit. In addition, this Ma Chenxi clearly had quite a bit of cultivation in her physical body, so this strike of Lu Ping's that was determined to succeed did not take Ma Chenxi's life. But at this time, Ma Chenxi was also an arrow at the end of its flight. No matter if it was himself or Lu Ping, they both knew that Ma Chenxi's death was only in the hands of Lu Ping's thoughts. Ma Chenxi disregarded the injuries all over his body, and struggled to prop up his broken body. He fiercely breathed 2 breaths towards the depths of the white fog, and then said weakly, "Your Excellency's methods are good. It's just that at this stage, Your Excellency is still not willing to show yourself? At least let me die knowing a ghost." Perhaps Ma Chenxi had reached the final radiance of the setting sun. The injuries on his body were almost incurable, but for some reason, his eyes emitted light in an instant, as if he was waiting for something. The opponent's attack did not arrive at the first instant. Ma Chenxi's eyebrows relaxed, as if he felt the opponent's hesitation. So he opened his mouth to say something, but when he raised his head, he saw another 3 meteors flying towards his head, chest, and abdomen. The opponent was still not willing to reveal his identity. Ma Chenxi's expression suddenly became ferocious. He no longer cared about the fresh blood flowing all over his body, and roared, "Since it's like this, even if I die, I will not let you have an easy time." Looking at the gentian pearl flying towards him, Ma Chenxi actually faced it head-on, and then shouted a word in a heavy tone. "Explode!" Lu Ping, who was hiding in the depths of the clouds, felt his heart skip a beat for no reason when Ma Chenxi said the word, "explode." Then his expression changed. He saw that among the few magic treasures that Ma Chenxi had just used, the flying sword, the flying dagger, and the pair of horseshoe-like magic treasures suddenly exploded. A huge spiritual energy storm rose up, carrying with it an unparalleled force, and mixed with countless magic treasure fragments, rushed towards all directions of the formation space, continuously tearing the space apart. Countless white fog dissipated, and Lu Ping's life source gentian formation was almost completely torn apart under the self-explosion of the 4 magic treasures. Not good. The white jade lotus seat under Lu Ping's feet shone with a holy light, and then the lotus seat quickly expanded. Petals flew out from the lotus seat, and each petal was engraved with countless runes, turning into scattered formation diagrams, and like patches to make up for the space, they hung around the gentian formation. The gentian pearl no longer had the white fog accompanying it, and the 12 pearls shining with 5-colored light turned into 12 huge stars embedded in the gentian space, echoing with the expanding formation diagrams. The self-explosion of the 4 spirit-nurturing magic treasures caused Lu Ping's gentian formation to be on the verge of collapse. Even though Lu Ping used all his methods to stabilize the gentian formation that was about to collapse, the white fog of spiritual energy in the formation space was swept away by the storm of self-explosion. Looking at Ma Chenxi, who was staring at him in a daze from afar, Lu Ping's heart was filled with gloom. Those who could improve their cultivation to this level were definitely not ordinary people. Not to mention, Ma Chenxi was a direct disciple of the Pegasus clan. Not only did she have an endless array of mystic treasures and means, but her willpower was also top-notch. How could she easily give up in a desperate situation? If Lu Ping had thought that killing Ma Chenxi this time was already foolproof, or if he had gone out to meet Ma Chenxi with the intention of ridiculing her, then the self-explosion of the few spirit-nurturing magic treasures would definitely have gone towards Lu Ping. Even if Lu Ping did not show up, the other party's self-explosion of the spirit-nurturing magic treasure was not to perish together, but to escape after tearing apart the formation space. If it wasn't for Lu Ping's monstrous cultivation, how could this gentian formation withstand the self-explosion of 4 spirit-nurturing magic treasures? And 2 of them were even top-notch spirit-nurturing magic treasures with 9 restrictions. Lu Ping was in the formation space, but this time, he no longer had anything to hide his tracks. Moreover, in the dangerous situation just now, Lu Ping really did not have the time to care about his own tracks. "It's you!" Ma Chenxi's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. Ma Chenxi had many guesses about the person in charge of the gentian formation, but he never thought that the person who could so easily kill him would be the North Sea cultivator Lu Xianping, who was on par with him in the chaotic battle 5 years ago. How could it be? How could it be you? Ha ha! Ma Chenxi's sharp laughter carried endless bitterness. It's actually you, it's actually you. Lu Ping looked expressionlessly at Ma Chenxi, who was about to fall into madness. The space of the gentian formation rapidly shrank behind the 2 of them, and 12 gentian beads fell from the sky, surrounding Ma Chenxi. A white jade lotus platform slowly rose from under Lu Ping's feet, covering Ma Chenxi's head with a ray of light. Ma Chenxi was instantly unable to move. Why? Ma Chenxi calmed down at this time. You're a North Sea cultivator. Even if you're extremely talented, you're still just one person. If I die, the Tenma people will definitely know, and then you'll be hunted down by the entire Pegasus clan. Even the sect behind you won't be able to protect you. Do you know the Green Fox? The Green Fox? Ma Chenxi looked at Lu Ping in confusion and said, "You're clearly a human. The Green Fox clan may have been defeated by me, but what does that have to do with you?" Without waiting for Lu Ping to answer, Ma Chenxi suddenly had a look of realization, and with a face full of ridicule she said, I understand. Although the Green Fox clan leader died back then, her mixed-blood daughter was on the run. I didn't think that you, the outstanding talent of the world, could not escape from the Green Fox's seductive charm, and was willing to be a woman's guest. Lu Ping was helpless at the other party's rich imagination, but Lu Ping did not want to drag things out. Although the other party was currently under his control, Lu Ping did not know if the other party had any other tricks up her sleeves. Once the cultivators of the Pegasus clan at the source of the river received the news and rushed over, he would not be able to tangle with the other party in his current state. Clang! The autumn water sword was like a pool of autumn water, held in Lu Ping's hand and about to slash horizontally. Ma Chenxi suddenly shouted, "If I die, my father will definitely know. You can just wait for your death and the destruction of your clan." Lu Ping looked at the 4th young master of the Tenma people, who only had fear left in his eyes, and said mockingly, "If you die, your father will probably know immediately. But if you want to find out who the murderer is through the blockade of the river source, even if the Tenma people grow up to be real spirits, they do not have the ability to do so." Ma Chenxi opened his mouth to say something, but Lu Ping did not want him to make any more noise, and only chopped off his head with a swing of his sword. A golden pill shone with a dazzling golden light, and came out of Ma Chenxi's body, and then it flew away. Lu Ping smiled and said, "This is wishful thinking. How can I fall behind like this?" The white jade lotus platform shone brightly, and the 12 gentian pearls rotated, locking the direction of the golden pill's escape. This first-class pill suddenly trembled, and looked like it was about to self-destruct, unwilling to fall into the hands of Lu Ping. However, Lu Ping wasn't going to give it the chance to do so. His divine will surged into the golden core. Although the golden core was now a grade 1 golden core, it was still no match for a divine will that was even stronger than an early Dharma stage cultivator. The spiritual nature of the golden pill was quickly destroyed by Lu Ping's divine thought, and a first-grade golden pill, which was at the peak of the core forging stage and had condensed the essence of the blood of the Pegasus clan, was kept by Lu Ping. At this time, Lu Ping's originally calm expression could no longer be maintained, and a mouthful of blood surged out from Lu Ping's mouth. Chapter 797. Lu Ping had calculated everything about Ma Chenxi, but the sudden explosion of the 4 spirit-nurturing magic treasures was still beyond Lu Ping's expectations. When a magic treasure reached the level of spirit nurturing, its spirituality had already greatly increased. Wanting to explode it was definitely not an easy task, and how could a normal person have the determination to explode a spirit-nurturing magic treasure? Although Lu Ping had used all his strength to suppress the destructive power of the magic treasure's explosion, so that the life gentian formation was not damaged, but Lu Ping's internal organs were truly shaken by the magic treasure's explosion. Even if Lu Ping's physical body had been strengthened several times, under this level of power, he was still seriously injured. He just resisted and did not show it in front of Ma Chenxi. After killing Ma Chenxi, Lu Ping finally could no longer suppress the injuries in his body. A mouthful of blood rushed up from his stomach, and a sweet taste came from his throat. In front of his body, there was already a cloud of blood mist. Lu Ping did not dare to stay here for long. The momentum caused by the explosion of the 4 spirit-nurturing magic treasures was not something that Lu Ping's gentian formation could suppress. Presumably, it had already attracted the attention of people with ulterior motives. Moreover, at this time, Lu Ping still did not know whether Samling was alive or dead. He had to rush over to rescue Samling as soon as possible. Although he had set up a plan, and secretly pushed the major powers of the river source to meet because of the Flood Dragon Bloodstone, in his view, there would definitely be a chaotic battle between the two sides, and whether Samling could escape or not would depend on the degree of the chaotic battle between the two sides, as well as Samling's own luck. He used the spirit sealing box to seal the first-grade gold core of the Tenma people, and then held a canopy jade talisman in his hand. This was the only magic treasure that was not damaged by the impact of Ma Chenxi's explosion, and it was a spirit-nurturing level defensive magic treasure. It was a pity that this magic treasure could not be revealed in front of others. Lu Ping reached out and took Ma Chenxi's storage magic treasure into his hand. Then, a black flame was thrown out by Lu Ping. Ma Chenxi's corpse turned into ashes in an instant, falling into the meadow's water network to become fertilizer. Lu Ping threw a crystal-clear pill into his mouth. This was a pill that Lu Ping had refined using the spirit monster peach, and was the best healing medicine in Lu Ping's hands. In just a moment, it cooperated with the qi in Lu Ping's body to suppress the injury. Sixth Lei saw Lu Ping vomit blood from the serious injury, and his eyes flashed with a sharp light. However, Sixth Lei didn't know what had happened. 666 Lu Ping didn't know what had, but seemed to remember, and the Sixth Lei thought, and the Ling Ping's qi in. Lu Ping slowly turned around, as if he didn't notice Sixth Brother Lei's strange behavior. His slightly pale face revealed a faint smile as he said, "How was it? Damn it!" Sixth Lei cursed, then stood up and bowed. "Lady greets young master." Lu Ping smiled with satisfaction. "You still have some brains. You didn't take advantage of the situation. I owe you a favor." Sixth Lei rolled his eyes. "If I took advantage of the situation, I'm afraid I would be like Ma Chenxi, crushed to ashes by you. Humph, I still want to live for a few more years, and still wonder if I can break through to the Dharma stage in the future. I don't want to die in your hands now." Lu Ping didn't mind. He just smiled and didn't say anything. Sixth Lei took out a jade bottle from his bosom and poured out a bluish-purple pill the size of a thumb. He looked at Lu Ping suspiciously. Did you really refine this? Are you really an alchemy grandmaster? After that, he didn't wait for Lu Ping to answer. He threw the pill into his mouth and swallowed it. He pointed to the direction where Ma Chenxi stood before and said, "That's a sign of allegiance. Now that I have swallowed the pill you gave me in advance, can I rest assured now?" Lu Ping still didn't speak. He just smiled and stretched out his hand. A space portal formed in front of Lu Ping. "Sure enough, there's something strange. No wonder even Ma Chenxi, this bastard, was tricked by you," Sixth Lei muttered. He lowered his head and entered the space portal, entering the House of Gold. Lu Ping breathed a sigh of relief, then wrapped his body with the cloud-light 5 elements robe. He turned into a cloud of water vapor and constantly changed its shape in the air. He rushed in the direction of the pool where Xie Tianyang was previously found. Lu Ping had to rush to the scene of the battle as soon as possible. In addition to saving Samling, there was another reason, which was to show his existence in front of others. Ma Chenxi died in his hands. Now the Pegasus clan should have already known through means such as the soul lamp, but because of the obstruction of the formation at the source of the river, they couldn't do anything. However, among the cultivators of the same level who were qualified to kill Ma Chenxi, if there was a ranking, Lu Ping, who fought with Ma Chenxi, Xie Tianyang, and Li Tong, would definitely be on the list. Perhaps because of his sudden appearance, he would receive more attention from the Tenma people. The news of Ma Chenxi's death was still unknown to the cultivators at the source of the river, and with Sixth Lei taking the blame for him, Lu Ping only needed to show his means in front of others to prove that he was not injured. Originally, Lu Ping thought that if he used the natal gentian formation when no one was paying attention, not only could he successfully kill Ma Chenxi, but he would also only consume some qi at most. Once this plan succeeded, who would believe that Lu Ping would be able to kill a top-core forging realm cultivator like Ma Chenxi without sustaining any injuries? In this way, the suspicion on Lu Ping naturally lessened a lot. However, Lu Ping still underestimated Ma Chenxi's means, and the power of the natal gentian formation with his current cultivation was far less than what he expected. Under Ma Chenxi's desperate means, Lu Ping was inevitably seriously injured. This was a bit of a loss. Although Lu Ping's qi was several times faster than cultivators of the same level because of the 10,000 Wonder Dew, whether it was recovery or healing, such a serious injury could not be healed in such a short time even with the spirit pill that Lu Ping had specially refined. Lu Ping flew as fast as he could, but his expression kept changing. In the end, he seemed to have made up his mind. He flipped his palm and a bottle carved from black jade appeared in his hand. He poured out a pellet that emitted a strange black light and spun it in his hand. This time it was really a big loss, but in order to escape from the pursuit of the Tenma people in the western wasteland, he could not care so much. Throwing the black pill into his mouth, Lu Ping suddenly felt a stream of fire burning down his throat. After a moment, his whole face turned red, and his body was surrounded by hot air. Lu Ping suddenly opened his mouth and spat out a black mist. His qi surged all over his body, and he seemed to be able to hear the sound of his blood flowing like a great river in his veins. The light under his feet instantly sped up, and Lu Ping seemed to have recovered his original strength because of the black pill. All of the cultivators from the human and demon races who were fighting each other were shocked by the loud noise just now. However, some of the cultivators quickly took advantage of the opportunity to deal a heavy blow to some of the slower cultivators. With that, all of them forgot about the source of the loud noise and fell into a chaotic battle once again. Furthermore, compared to before, the battle became even more intense. Only a few of the more determined cultivators were still fighting their opponents, but their minds were clearly not on the battle. Ma Zhongshan was fighting with Zhang Jiming. When he inadvertently looked to the side, he happened to see a breeze suddenly blowing in the pool of water under his feet. A little girl with bright eyes and cruel teeth suddenly appeared among several groups of people who were fighting. Several cultivators of the Tenma people who were fighting with the human race cultivators were suddenly injured by the little girl's sneak attack, and then they were besieged by the human race cultivators who were fighting with them. Ma Zhongshan's eyes lit up. He was one of the cultivators of the Tenma people who found the 3 green sea snakes. He saw clearly that this little girl who suddenly appeared was one of the 3 green sea snakes. Ma Zhongshan attacked with all his strength, and for a moment, Zhang Jiming was forced to retreat. Zhang Jiming was not surprised, but happy. He had already prepared several means and was about to counterattack, but unexpectedly, the opponent in front of him suddenly turned into a light and retreated. Zhang Jiming was stunned. When he turned around, he saw Ma Zhongshan suddenly pouncing on a cultivator of his race who was obviously at a disadvantage. Zhang Jiming sneered. At this time, you still want to save the cultivators of your race. Do you really think I can't do anything to you? Zhang Jiming pushed the magic treasure in his hand, and the magical power, reverse heaven and earth, of the Western Wilderness Palace was displayed, and directly aimed at Ma Zhongshan's back. At this time, Zhang Jiming finally realized that the target of Ma Zhongshan's attack was actually a little girl of 12 or 13 years old. Zhang Jiming immediately came to his senses, and secretly cursed. Oh no! I actually let this person get ahead of me. That girl is most likely one of the 3 green sea snakes. At this time, Zhang Jiming wanted to intervene and snatch the girl, but it was already a step too late. He simply mobilized his true essence, and the power of the magic treasure aimed at Ma Zhongshan's back increased by 30%. Ma Zhongshan had just managed to condense a low-grade 8th-grade golden core in the sacred settling lake, so his confidence had skyrocketed. He had thought that sneak attacking the little girl in front of him would be a piece of cake. Unexpectedly, although the little girl's cultivation was only at the 7th stage core forging stage, her strength was very strong. The little girl suddenly turned around and glanced coldly at Ma Zhongshan. She suddenly shook the long whip in her hand and it suddenly turned into a spiral in midair. Then, the surrounding spiritual energy gathered to form a vortex, blocking Ma Zhongshan's sneak attack in one fell swoop. Ma Zhongshan's eyes flashed with a trace of surprise, but he saw that the little girl was still somewhat unable to do what she wanted. She took a few steps back, and then her body turned into a thin wind, wanting to escape with Ma Zhongshan's strength. Ma Zhongshan sneered and was about to chase after her, but unexpectedly, he saw a fish-like sword light cross the sky and encircle the dissipating thin wind in one fell swoop. Ma Zhongshan's expression changed, and he saw that Li Tong had unknowingly rushed over. Ma Zhongshan didn't dare to fight with Li Tong, and was about to retreat with some unwillingness, but he saw a wave of fire burning the sword-light fish that filled the sky into grilled fish. Xie Tianyang caught up, stretched out his hand, and a giant hand made of true essence condensed in midair, and grabbed the thin wind that was about to take the opportunity to escape. Chapter 798. In fact, this lake had already been sealed off by the cultivators who had rushed over, cutting off its connection with the other water veins. Just after Lu Bai's appearance attracted Li Tong and Xie Tianyang, on the other side of the lake, Lu Hai and Lu Linger also climbed out of the lake, taking advantage of the chaotic battle to escape to the periphery. However, the initiators of this chaotic battle were actually Lu Bai and the other two. Although Lu Bai wanted to use a trick to lure the tigers away from the mountains, how many tigers could she lure away? These cultivators who were formed in the cultivation world all year round were all extremely intelligent. Lu Bai's little trick made more people focus their attention on the lake. They didn't dare to fight with Li Tong, Xie Tianyang and the others, but couldn't they pick up their leftovers? Lu Hai roared, the mysterious halberd in his hand slashed forward, sending an incoming core forging level 8 cultivator flying. The Koi clan cultivator, who was vomiting blood in midair, had a look of disbelief in his eyes. Lu Hai's strength made the surrounding cultivators who wanted to take advantage of the situation hesitate for no reason. Although this green sea snake only had the cultivation of core forging level 7, its strength was indeed extraordinary. If they could capture it in one fell swoop, it would be fine. Once they got into a fight, whoever attacked first would most likely become a gift to the later. Although the surrounding cultivators did not attack immediately, Lu Hai and Lu Linger could not stay here forever. The two rushed out one after the other, so it was inevitable that they would bump into the cultivators who had already surrounded them. Lu Hai's body was surrounded by water mist, gradually wrapping Lu Hai and Lu Linger in it. Lu Linger did not say a word. Her pair of small hands suddenly rubbed, the surrounding water mist gradually condensed into a huge ice boat, rushing towards the encirclement. The two cultivators at the front were still Koi clan demon cultivators. When they saw that their clan's cultivator was injured, they had already stepped forward to intercept Lu Hai and Lu Hai. These two cultivators were confident that the surrounding cultivators who wanted to take advantage of the Koi clan would have to carefully consider whether they could bear the anger of the Koi clan. Lu Hai stood at the bow of the ship, brandishing the profound halberd in his hand like a sea dragon, wandering around the giant ice ship, blocking all kinds of magic treasures flying around. However, Lu Hai had just advanced to the 7th level of the core forging realm. Under the siege of at least the 8th level of the core forging realm, even with Lu Linger's help with the ice ship, how long could he last? As expected of the Green Sea Snake, the number 1 Flood Dragon Bloodline Demon Clan. Indeed. These two kids have obviously cultivated for less than 200 years, but their cultivation has already reached core forging stage 7. I'm afraid they are geniuses even among the Green Sea Snakes. That's right. Then these 3 kids must have a distinguished status among the Green Sea Snakes. If we make things difficult for them this time, how can we stop the Green Sea Snakes when they come looking for us? Hee, the law does not punish the masses. Let's all attack together. Will the Green Sea Snakes kill us all? That's hard to say. It's rumored that the Green Sea Snakes are used to protecting their own people. They have done many things such as exterminating a race and destroying a family. If these 3 little guys are really the descendants of the Green Sea Snakes, they will suffer a great loss in our hands. Maybe the Green Sea Snakes will rush to the Middle Earth and create rivers of blood. Humph, don't be alarmist. Don't forget that the Tenma people, Koi Carp Clan, Western Wilderness Palace, and even Ziyang Palace snatched the Flood Dragon Blood Stone from them today. Even if they want to take the blame, it won't be up to us. Besides, although the Green Sea Snakes are powerful, Ziyang Palace is not weak. If they join hands, won't the Green Sea Snakes have to obediently retreat to the East Sea? That's right, that's right. Hee, there's no need for Ziyang Palace to join hands. If the Green Sea Snakes want to enter the Middle Earth, they will have to pass through the Crystal Palace first. Oh, I forgot about this. The Crystal Palace is said to be as famous as the 5 holy lands of the Middle Earth. If the Green Sea Snakes want to enter the Middle Earth, the Crystal Palace will be their biggest obstacle. Don't talk nonsense. Let's capture these 2 little devils and get the Flood Dragon Bloodstone first. The disturbing words constantly passed into the ears of the stubborn Lu Hai. At this time, Lu Hai was already powerless in the face of the crowd's siege. Fortunately, many of the cultivators were unwilling to bear the name of the murderer of the Green Sea Snakes. Although many of them had the strength of the 9th level of Core Forging Realm and the peak of Core Forging Realm, they did not kill the 2. They just constantly consumed the 2's Jinqi and magic power, waiting for the 2 to run out of oil to be captured. Second brother, what should we do? Lu Linger tried her best to maintain the ice ship, helping Lu Hai rush out. However, more and more cultivators surrounded them. Lu Linger was getting more and more desperate. She could not help but ask Lu Hai, who was standing on the bow of the ship, trying his best to resist the attacks of the crowd. When will father come? Shut up. Lu Hai's lips squirmed, but his voice passed into the ears of Lu Linger. Linger, even if the 3 of us are captured, we can't reveal any information about father. Otherwise, with our identities, we will definitely bring great trouble to father. Besides, I don't think these people will dare to take the lives of the 3 of us. As long as father is not involved, it will be easier for father to save the 3 of us. Lu Linger was usually unruly and willful, but at this time, she was the most vulnerable one. Lu Hai was simple and honest. At this moment of life and death, his mind was firm. Lu Linger curled her lips, and her face showed a bitter expression. Then she restrained her expression and once again stimulated the Jinqi in her body, trying her best to maintain the ice ship from being broken. At this time, Lu Bai's situation was much worse than that of Lu Hai and Lu Linger. Li Tong and Xie Tianyang would not be as timid as the others. Although Xie Tianyang took the initiative to control Lu Bai, facing Li Tong's encirclement, even if Xie Tianyang had the strength to defeat him, with Lu Bai as a burden, his hands and feet would be tied. Unfortunately, Lu Bai wasn't someone who would allow herself to be trampled on. She had learned a lot of Lu Ping's craftiness and cunning. Although she was captured by Xie Tianyang in the blink of an eye, and although she was shocked by Xie Tianyang's skills and arcane energy, she wasn't completely defenseless. Seeing Li Tong coming forward to attack, Lu Bai immediately calculated the range of Xie Tianyang's escape. Her whole body surged with Jinqi, and she was about to attack Xie Tianyang's confinement spell. Xie Tianyang was about to parry Li Tong's attack, but unexpectedly his mind moved. Lu Bai's movements suddenly affected his concentration, and he had no choice but to use a part of his Jinqi to suppress Lu Bai's resistance. In this way, Xie Tianyang could only temporarily avoid Li Tong's attack. Every time Li Tong came forward to attack, Lu Bai would roll her Jinqi to attack the surrounding bindings. Xie Tianyang was furious in his heart, but he was helpless. He could only divide his attention to suppress Lu Bai. In this way, Xie Tianyang, who was originally stronger than Li Tong, was instead being suppressed by Li Tong. What a cunning little demon! Xie Tianyang was very patient, and simply threw Lu Bai towards Li Tong. He smiled and said, "Since Brother Li is so anxious, I will give this little snake demon to Brother Li." When Li Tong saw Xie Tianyang suddenly throw back the benefits that were already in his hands, he couldn't help but be surprised. His mind was racing like lightning, and he was still considering whether this was Xie Tianyang's trick. However, someone was already hiding on the side, waiting for an opportunity to make a move. Seeing Xie Tianyang throw Lu Bai, a figure suddenly appeared 300 feet away. Without waiting for Li Tong to react, this figure had already crossed the 300 feet distance, and Lu Bai, who was in midair, was sucked over. The layer of light under his feet suddenly thickened, as if it was a spring that had been compressed to the limit. Then, this figure suddenly accelerated, and by the time Li Tong and Xie Tianyang discovered it, the figure had already flashed 400 feet away. In the sky, there was only a blood-red trail left behind. It was obvious that the cultivator who had intercepted them had used an extremely brilliant secret technique that consumed his own blood as the price. "Sixth Brother Lei, you're courting death!" Li Tong immediately recognized this famous assassin who had been hiding in the western wilderness for all these years. A hint of surprise flashed in Xie Tianyang's eyes, and he heard another roar coming from not far away. "Sixth Brother Lei, where is my fourth young master?" When Ma Zhongshan saw that not only did Sixth Brother Lei not die, he even ran over unscathed to intercept Li Tong and Xie Tianyang's victory. Although he felt carefree in his heart, when he thought about it, Ma Chenxi was lured away by Sixth Brother Lei. Now that Sixth Brother Lei was safe and sound, but Ma Chenxi did not appear, a bad feeling suddenly surged in Ma Zhongshan's heart. He immediately opened his mouth and shouted. However, Sixth Brother Lei's layer of light did not stop at all, and immediately crashed into the encirclement that was besieging Lu Hai and Lu Linger. The sudden incident caused the many cultivators who were besieging Lu Hai and Lu Linger to be in chaos, and Li Tong, who was behind them, blocked the way. At this moment, a magnificent sword chi suddenly rose in the opposite direction of Sixth Brother Lei. Li Tong and Xie Tianyang, who had slowed down for some reason, were suddenly startled. The flying swords flying around the two suddenly stiffened, and then the flying swords respectively emitted a golden and purple halo, and then returned to normal. The other cultivators who were controlling the flying swords suddenly found that the flying swords in their hands suddenly trembled uncontrollably. Everyone channeled their true essence to suppress the flying swords in their hands. The faces of the experienced cultivators changed greatly, and they exclaimed, 10,000 swords returned to origin, Is someone going to use one sword to break 10,000 techniques? Everyone turned around and saw that the towering sword she in the sky suddenly turned into a Milky Way that descended from the sky. It surged towards the crowd with the momentum of 10,000 men, and the cultivators who were besieging the ice ship were scattered in all directions. Everyone retreated, and even Li Tong and Xie Tianyang could only choose to avoid the opponent's attack. In the blink of an eye, they saw that the giant ice ship was strangely going against the current of the celestial Sword River, sailing towards the place where the Sword River fell. Moreover, it seemed that the giant ice ship was constantly trembling, as if it was trying to get rid of something, but in the end, it was in vain. At the end of the Sword River, a golden door suddenly opened, swallowing the giant ice ship. The Sword River suddenly disappeared, and the cultivators were in a sorry state. A long laugh came from the distance, and a figure appeared in the sky. When Xie Tianyang and the others looked over, they sighed in their hearts. It really is him. He took advantage of it. Chapter 799. Brother Lu, taking it without saying anything is a bit unsightly. Li Tong's complexion was actually even uglier. Seeing the duck that was already in his hands fly away, how could a proud son of heaven like Li Tong swallow this? Li Tong's eyes could clearly see that under the power of such a powerful swordsmanship, sixth brother Lei who had kidnapped the green sea snake would definitely die. In this way, wouldn't the flood dragon bloodstones that the 3 green sea snakes found eventually fall into the hands of the person in front of him? Li Tong's words were not only accusing the person in front of him of being too greedy, but also inciting others to be dissatisfied with the result of a chaotic battle. If the person who came was not Lu Ping, who else could it be? It was precisely because the person who came was Lu Ping that when he captured the other 2 green sea snakes in one fell swoop, the crowd did not go forward to beat him up. What a joke. 5 years ago, Lu Ping fought with Li Tong, Ma Chenxi, and Xie Tianyang and did not fall into a disadvantageous position. Everyone had long regarded him as an expert on the same level as Li Tong, Xie Tianyang, and the others, so how would they dare to find trouble with him? It was just that the flood dragon bloodstones were of great importance, so it was not up to Lu Ping to monopolize them. If everyone really joined forces, Lu Ping could only flee at the sight of the wind. Moreover, this seemed to be inconsistent with cultivator Zhenling's request to help Zhenling in the Central Plains. Brother Li must be joking. These 2 green sea snakes were captured alive by me, so they should belong to me. Lu Ping naturally would not compromise just because of the other party's words. His figure floated more than 100 feet away from the crowd, and the light under his feet did not extinguish. Obviously, he had made up his mind to immediately escape once someone came forward to snatch it. Ha ha, Brother Lu, not only do we admire your cultivation and strength, but your courage also leaves us in the dust. Otherwise, how could you kill one of the 3 emerald sea spirit snakes on the spot? Xie Tianyang leisurely walked forward from behind Li Tong and stood side by side with Li Tong. He smiled and casually said to Lu Ping in the distance, Brother Xie's joke is not funny at all. Lu Ping paused for a moment, his face filled with displeasure, and said, Although I haven't been in the western wilderness for a long time, I still know the assassin bandit 6th brother Lei who roams the Central Plains. Although it is a great coincidence that this person died under my sword technique, it is still something to be happy about. However, I don't know how this 6th brother Lei managed to get involved with the green sea snakes. Could it be that Brother Xie thinks that this 6th brother Lei is a green sea snake? That would be a huge joke. Xie Tianyang was not annoyed by Lu Ping's mockery. He just smiled and said, So Brother Lu doesn't know. Just when Brother Lu was using your sword technique, this 6th brother Lei took advantage of the moment when Brother Li and I were preoccupied and snatched a green sea snake from our hands. Under the pursuit of Brother Li and I, this 6th brother Lei was in a panic and didn't know where to run. Coincidentally, Brother Lu made a move, and this 6th brother Lei ran into Brother Lu's heaven-connecting Sword River. Lu Ping suddenly understood, and then his expression changed greatly. He knew that Xie Tianyang and Li Tong wouldn't lie to him in front of so many people, so this sixth brother Lei must have a green sea snake on his body that died under his sword technique. Seeing Brother Lu's expression change from green to red, Xie Tianyang knew that the threat of the green sea snakes was obviously far more important in the hearts of the overseas cultivators than the cultivators of the Central Plains. This Lu Xianping killed a green sea snake. Although it was an unintentional act, in the future, the green sea snakes may be wary of the power of the Central Plains, but they definitely wouldn't mind turning the North Sea upside down. Brother Lu, we all saw it with our own eyes. Sixth Brother Lei killed that sixth Brother Lei by mistake. If Brother Lu can take out the Flood Dragon Blood Stone and share it with everyone, we naturally won't say anything about today's matter. Even if the news is leaked in the future, we will stand up for Brother Lu and say that the green sea snake was mistakenly killed by Brother Lu. What do you think, Brother Lu? The one who spoke was Li Tong. Not to mention that his words were too childish, the hidden intention was even more vicious. It was obvious that he wanted to force Lu Ping to submit. Lu Ping's divine sense moved. He had already noticed that there were cultivators moving from the periphery to his back. It was obvious that they had decided to besiege him. Right now, Li Tong and the others were just stalling for time. It was just that they didn't expect that Lu Ping's divine sense would be so strange. All of their actions were already clearly seen by Lu Ping's divine sense. Since you discovered that the Flood Dragon Blood Stone was obtained by the 3 green sea snakes, you should know how many Flood Dragon Blood Stones there are in total, right? Lu Ping asked unhurriedly. Naturally, we know. There are a total of 7 Flood Dragon Blood Stones. They should have been obtained by my Pegasus clan, but they were snatched away by those 3 people. Ma Zhongshan saw that Ma Chenxi still hadn't arrived yet. He was very anxious in his heart. If Ma Chenxi couldn't arrive, the Tenma people wouldn't have a top expert as their trump card. If they were to compete with the Koi clan and Xie Tianyang, they would inevitably fall into a disadvantageous position. In the worst-case scenario, they might even be worse than the motley crew organized by Zhang Jiming of the Western Desolate Temple. Seeing that Lu Ping's tone seemed to be loosening, he hurriedly opened his mouth to interject, for fear that the Pegasus clan would be ignored as a spectator. When everyone heard Ma Zhongshan say that the 7 Flood Dragon Blood Stones belonged to his clan, it immediately caused a burst of hissing. Ma Zhongshan's face turned red for no reason, but at this moment, he couldn't care about this. As long as he could snatch 1 or 2 Flood Dragon Blood Stones, at least after leaving the river source, he wouldn't have to bear any responsibility. As for the Tenma people's accountability, naturally Ma Chenxi couldn't arrive in time would be the reason. Lu Ping glanced at Ma Zhongshan meaningfully. Then, a red light flashed in his hand and 4 blood-red stones that were twice the size of chicken eggs appeared in his hand. He said, "Fellow Taoists from the Pegasus clan, are you trying to deceive me? I only obtained 4 Flood Dragon Blood Stones from the 2 Emerald Sea Spirit Snakes." 4 bloodstones that emitted a red halo appeared in Lu Ping's hand. Many of the cultivators in the field suddenly felt their hearts beating fiercely for no reason. The blood in their veins suddenly accelerated, and the speed at which their true yuan was transported suddenly doubled. Everyone was knowledgeable people. The moment they saw the 4 bloodstones, their eyes suddenly changed. Even Li Tong and Xie Tianyang couldn't help but take 2 steps forward when they saw the bloodstones in Lu Ping's hand. That's it. Ma Zhongshan obviously saw the shape of the Flood Dragon Bloodstone when Samling took it, so he hurriedly said, "That day, it was this kind of bloodstone. Unfortunately there were only 4. The other 3 must be on the Green Sea Snake, but unfortunately they were smashed by Lu Daoyou's sword along with 6th Brother Lei." Lu Ping raised his eyebrows, but in his heart, he was secretly laughing. This Ma Zhongshan said the reason he wanted to say. It was much more convincing than him saying it himself. Xie Tianyang took a step forward. This time he finally had an infinite desire for the Flood Dragon Bloodstone. Originally, Xie Tianyang came from the Purple Sun Palace and didn't care about the Flood Dragon Bloodstone, but after seeing it with his own eyes, the desire from the source of his bloodline made him unable to maintain his previous aloof demeanor. He said in a deep voice, "How does Brother Lu plan to divide the 4 Flood Dragon Bloodstones? If Brother Lu is interested, Tianyang is willing to advance and retreat with Brother Lu. As soon as Xie Tianyang's voice fell, Li Tong's expression changed. Not only him, but Ma Zhongshan and Zhang Jiming's expressions also changed. Everyone's eyes were staring at the flood dragon bloodstone in Lu Ping's hand. If things went wrong, the two of them didn't mind snatching it. At the very least, they had to make this situation chaotic. They couldn't let people like Xie Tianyang and Li Tong get it so easily. Lu Ping saw where Ma Zhongshan and Zhang Jiming were standing and their eager expressions. How could he not guess what the two wanted to do? With a shake of his hands, 2 flood dragon bloodstones were suddenly thrown out by him. Lu Ping let out a long laugh and said, "If that's the case, then this Lu will follow the principle of splitting everything in half. I'll leave 2 for everyone, I'll go down now." The light under Lu Ping's feet surged and he fled to the back. Many cultivators wanted to intercept him, but they were attracted by the 2 bloody lights that streaked across the sky. They didn't know whether they should go forward to snatch the 2 stones or intercept Lu Ping. During this moment of hesitation, Lu Ping's figure had already fled 200 feet away. The cultivators who had planned to surround Lu Ping were caught off guard and were scattered by Lu Ping's pair of flying swords. The 2 bloodstones thrown out by Lu Ping did not go towards Li Tong and Xie Tianyang. Instead, they flew towards Ma Zhongshan and Zhang Jiming, who were beside them. Ma Zhongshan and Zhang Jiming were overjoyed. They hurriedly flew forward to grab the 2 bloodstones in their hands. Immediately after, they felt a cold wind coming from behind them. 2 extremely strong killing intents directly penetrated their hearts. "Li Tong, Xie Tianyang, why aren't you 2 asking Lu Xianping for the bloodstones in his hands? Why are you stealing ours? Despicable!" Li Tong coldly said. "Stealing from you 2 is easy." Xie Tianyang's face was filled with helplessness. However, the flying sword in his hand did not have the slightest helplessness. It slashed towards Zhang Jiming's left hand that was holding the flood dragon bloodstone. Clearly, he had the same idea as Li Tong. Lu Ping's idea was very simple. He wanted to abandon the 2 flood dragon bloodstones to cause chaos in the crowd. He wanted to take advantage of the mutual vigilance and distrust between the crowd to dissolve their encirclement, and allow himself to escape unscathed. Not only did Li Tong and Xie Tianyang understand this idea, even Zhang Jiming and Ma Zhongshan could see it clearly. However, this was a blatant plot. The 4 of them were helpless, and could only rush forward to snatch it. As Li Tong had said, Lu Xianping was indeed a tough nut to crack. They did not have the confidence to snatch the 2 flood dragon bloodstones from him. Following Li Tong and Xie Tianyang's actions, the cultivators from the Heavenly Horse clan and the cultivators from the Western Desolate Temple naturally knew that Ma Zhongshan was not their opponent. One after another, they rushed forward to help. On the other side, the cultivators from the Koi clan were not willing to be outdone. The motley crew that Zhang Jiming had gathered also had the idea of fishing in troubled waters. Several forces suddenly fell into a chaotic battle. Lu Ping continuously used ruthless methods. He successively killed 2 8th-layer core forging cultivators, severely injured 4 8th and 9th-layer core forging cultivators, and forced back 2 peak core forging cultivators. Finally, the rest of the cultivators were intimidated and no longer dared to encircle him. Lu Ping faced the sky and let out a long laugh as he broke out of the encirclement. A moment later, he disappeared into the fog array surrounding the river source. Chapter 800. The fog array outside the river source would open in a few days. Lu Ping plunged into the fog array. At least here, he didn't have to worry about encountering large-scale encirclement of the cultivators who entered the river source. Originally, Samling also had this idea. Unfortunately, the other party had already discovered Samling's plot. Under the encirclement, Samling didn't have the strength that Lu Ping had, so he could only use the concealment ability of the green sea snake to hide under the water. It was just that he didn't know what was happening in the western wilderness. Ma Chenxi's death must have been known by the Pegasus clan, so it could be imagined that at this time, there must be a great storm outside that would sweep the entire western wilderness. Presumably, at this time, outside the fog array of the river source, the Tenma people and other forces must have been waiting for a long time. At this time, Lu Ping's only advantage was that the Pegasus clan still didn't know who the murderer was. The biggest suspect, Lei Laolu, had already been beheaded by him in front of everyone. With no evidence, the Tenma people might not be able to find him for a while. Lu Ping's divine thought swept through the surrounding area of more than 100 feet. No further place could be reached in the fog array. After making sure that there were no eyesores around, Lu Ping stretched out his hand and made a pushing gesture. A golden door appeared and opened. Samling was the first to jump out. Lu Linger cried and threw herself at Lu Ping. Her face was full of grievance, which made Lu Ping's intention to reprimand the three of them fade away. Lei Laolu also walked out of the golden door. Even though he had been shocked by Lu Ping's series of unexpected performances, when he knew that the three green sea snakes that almost turned the river source upside down were actually Lu Ping's spiritual pets, and the three of them's adoptive fathers, his eyes still widened to the size of a copper bell. Lu Ping comforted the three little guys, but he didn't forget to ask them to sum up the experience of being besieged this time. Then, he stood up and said to Lei Laolu behind him, "Brother Lei is really good at escaping. To be able to snatch something from the hands of Li Tong and Xie Tianyang is enough for Brother Lei to be proud in the cultivation world. This time, it's all thanks to your help. However, I also need Brother Lei to take the blame for this." Lei Lao smiled indifferently and said, "Anyway, in everyone's eyes I've already been turned into ashes by your remarkable swordsmanship. What's next is just to change my appearance. But you, on the other hand, are in a very bad situation now. After snatching the dragon bloodstone and killing the green sea snake, Ma Chenxi's death will at most confuse the Tenma people for a period of time. With Ma Zhen's experience, he will very quickly cast his suspicious gaze on you. And if I'm not wrong, the injuries on your body should be extremely serious. Although I don't know what elixir you used to recover your injuries in such a short period of time, I think the price after this should not be low." Lu Ping was stunned, but he somewhat admired this veteran bandit. As expected, he was a person with a meticulous mind. No wonder he was able to move unhindered in the central mainland cultivation world where Dharma adepts were everywhere. Samling had already heard about Lu Ping's situation from Lei Laolu, and they all blamed themselves. If the three of them had not been surrounded by the cultivators of the river source, then Lu Ping would not have needed to take that kind of elixir to suppress his injuries and rush over to save the three of them after being seriously injured. Lu Ping had no choice but to say to the three of them, "If this elixir was used on someone else, there might be a huge sequelae afterwards. It might even take 2 or 3 years for the injury to recover, and 5 or 6 years for the cultivation to not make any progress. But if it was used on my father, it would only be 1 or 2 years of injuries. Don't tell me you have forgotten that my father is an alchemy grandmaster." Not mentioning the fact that Lu Ping's identity as an alchemy grandmaster had once again blasted Lei Laolu into a crisp on the outside and tender on the inside, Lu Linger's tears turned into laughter and she said, Yes, that year when my father merged." Speaking until here, Lu Linger seemed to suddenly remember something. She suddenly shut her mouth and turned around to look at Lei Laolu with a look of distrust on her face. Lei Laolu's indifferent expression caused Lu Ping to rub Lu Linger's head. He knew that she was referring to the double wonder jade nectar that he had merged with. This kind of heaven and earth spirit treasure was not only beneficial to the recovery of a cultivator's true essence, but it was also quite effective in the recovery of a cultivator's physical injuries. It would certainly greatly shorten the recovery time for Lu Ping. Well, we have to go out. Now that the fog array is about to open, I think the Tenma people outside should be in a mess. When the time comes, it might turn into a chaotic battle. Lu Ping and the others moved towards the edge of the fog array. Lu Linger was the fastest. Along the way, she told Lu Ping everything that had happened to the three of them after they came out of the spiritual energy gathering land. Lu Bai also gave the 3 flood dragon bloodstones to Lu Ping. In addition to the 2 from before, Lu Ping now had a total of 5 flood dragon blood stones. Lu Ping pondered for a moment, then gave 3 of them to Samling and said, "These flood dragon bloodstones are quite effective in purifying the blood of cultivators with the flood dragon bloodline. After refining it, it might not have a significant effect on a cultivator's strength, but in the long run, it will be very beneficial. Each of you should refine one of these 3 flood dragon bloodstones." Samling happily accepted the flood dragon bloodstones. They had the direct descendant of the green sea snake bloodline. The purity of the flood dragon bloodline was very high, so they had already noticed the benefits of the flood dragon bloodstones. Lu Ping turned around and looked at Sixth Brother Lei. Sixth Brother Lei's heart skipped a beat, then he saw Lu Ping throw a flood dragon bloodstone to him. Sixth Brother Lei hurriedly caught it, but his face still had a trace of disbelief. Lu Ping saw Sixth Brother Lei's expression and smiled. Brother Lei has put in a lot of effort this time. Brother Lei is already very famous in the cultivation world. Now that you have pledged your allegiance to me, no matter what, you must get a flood dragon bloodstone. Sixth Brother Lei's expression disappeared. He tossed the flood dragon bloodstone in his hand and asked Lu Ping. Hundreds of cultivators fought to the death for a flood dragon bloodstone, but in the end, they couldn't get it. My current identity is just your subordinate. Are you really willing to give me this treasure? Lu Ping smiled. Lu Linger, who was next to him, was already dissatisfied. Her big eyes rolled around and her delicate nose let out a clear snort. She hid the slyness in her eyes and said, "Why would Father want this thing? I have seen bloodstones that are 3 times bigger than this one. This one is just the icing on the cake. But if you think that you are new and not qualified to get this stone, why don't you let me keep it for you? What do you think?" Sixth Brother Lei had killed people like flies in the cultivation world. How could he fall for Lu Linger's trick? However, he didn't dare to talk back to her. He just smiled and put away the bloodstone in his hand. In his heart he was cursing. How could all the benefits in the world be taken by his master? But this was not bad, at least he didn't worship the wrong person. While they were talking, everyone had already reached the edge of the fog array. In front of them was the barrier between the fog array and the outside world. Unfortunately, Lu Ping couldn't see through the barrier to observe the situation outside. The 5 people sat on the ground. Lu Linger was questioning Sixth Brother Lei's origin. Although Sixth Brother Lei was impatient, he didn't have any reason to get angry at the little girl in front of him. Moreover, as his master's adopted daughter, Sixth Brother Lei could only helplessly answer Lu Linger's questions. At this time, Lu Ping had the time to take out the storage artifact that he obtained from Ma Chenxi's body to have a look. The storage artifacts of the few cultivators who died in his hands had also fallen into Lu Ping's hands. However, the things collected inside were very few that Lu Ping was interested in. However, Ma Chenxi's identity was not ordinary. In the previous battle with Lu Ping, she also had endless means. Although a lot of the treasures inside were used, there should be a lot left. Needless to say, that Canopy Jade Talisman was only one step away from becoming a spiritual treasure. However, what made Lu Ping rare was that there was a heaven middle grade wind attribute spirit object inside. Lu Ping secretly said that it was a pity. This Ma Chenxi had advanced to the peak of the core forging realm, and repeatedly said that she had condensed a first-grade golden core. Then, this heaven middle grade spirit object would naturally be a backup in case Ma Chenxi failed to condense a first-grade golden core. In addition to this heaven middle grade spirit object, Lu Ping also found a heaven low grade strange gang earth. This was an earth attribute spirit object that would only appear thousands of feet deep underground. It was rare to see it on normal days. However, he didn't know how the Tenma people obtained it. Could it be that they really dug a hole thousands of feet deep underground? This idea only turned in Lu Ping's mind for a moment before he laughed involuntarily. It was just a spirit object, it might not necessarily have come from the hands of the Pegasus clan. However, it was not a bad thing to give this thing to Debao in the future. Heaven stage spirit objects contained a high spiritual nature. Often, after being refined by a cultivator, it would have a significant improvement in a certain aspect. Just like how the profound essence heavy water could increase the density of one's qi, and the thousand wonders dew could quickly restore one's qi and heal injuries, the strange gang earth would often have twice the results with half the effort for the cultivation of earth attribute magical powers. Lu Ping handed the canopy jade talisman to Lu Bai. Although this jade talisman could be used in his hands, it was not convenient for him to use. Lu Bai cultivated in wind attribute secret arts, so this magic treasure was most suitable for her. However, this jade talisman was condensed with 9 treasures talisman after all. With Lu Bai's current strength, it was still not enough for her to skillfully control this treasure. From inside, a few good treasures jumped out. Although they were not in Lu Ping's eyes, for Sam Ling and the others, they were extremely valuable things. On the other side, Sixth Brother Lei's eyes flashed with jealousy. After putting the 3 highest grade spirit stones and hundreds of upper grade spirit stones into the golden house, Lu Ping had an additional talisman in his hand. It was the teleportation talisman that Ma Chenxi had used in the Gentian space. This was a life-saving item. If the opponent he encountered did not have the means to restrain the space attribute magical powers in time, even a transcendent stage cultivator would find it difficult to stop him. Lu Ping rummaged through the storage artifact again. There were still a lot of miscellaneous things inside. If it was obtained by other core forging stage cultivators, they would definitely become rich overnight. However, in the hands of Lu Ping, he could only pick a few useful things from inside. Lu Ping threw the interspatial mystic instrument into Sixth Brother Lei's hands and said, "Brother Lei, you also contributed to killing Ma Chenxi. Take a look at the things inside and see if you can use them." Sixth Brother Lei smiled bitterly as he received the storage artifact. If it was not for Ma Chenxi, he would not have been found by Lu Ping to be the bait to lure Ma Chenxi. However, now that he had already boarded the pirate ship, he could only walk the dark path. Sixth Brother Lei chose a spiritual magic treasure from the storage artifact. He hesitated for a moment, and took out the ardent wind talisman that Ma Chenxi had used before. Then, under Lu Ping's signal, he handed the storage artifact to Lu Linger. Chapter 801. All of them had experienced a series of battles, and their qi was consumed to varying degrees. Taking advantage of the fact that the fog array barrier had not been opened, they sat cross-legged on the ground, holding high-grade spirit stones in their hands to restore the qi in their bodies. However, Sixth Brother Lei and Lu Bai were already dead in the eyes of the cultivators, and could not show their true faces in front of others. Moreover, Lu Ping also had to bear the blame of killing the Green Sea Snake. It was unknown when this matter would be spread to the Green Sea Snakes. As Lu Ping moved his qi, he used his divine sense to pay attention to the condition of his body. The qi in his blood vessels was mixed with a trace of black, which was the Yuan Burst pill that Lu Ping had previously modified using the 10,000 poison serum. The original medicinal effect of this pill was even stronger than now. After Lu Ping's modification, although the toxins were suppressed, it also made the toxins hidden deeper, and it was much more difficult to completely remove it than before. This Yuan Burst pill could only last for a month. If Lu Ping could not rush out of the western wilderness within a month and get rid of the pursuit of the Pegasus clan, then the poison pill would backfire, and Lu Ping's strength would inevitably be greatly reduced. At this time, the heavenly Pegasus cultivators in the river source area should have already realized that Ma Chenxi's disappearance was not something they could escape from. The qi in Lu Ping's body was like a raging river flowing in his blood vessels. Lu Ping could clearly sense that every time the qi flowed in his body, there would be traces of invisible black impurities discharged from his body. These black impurities were the toxins contained in the Yuan Burst pill, but this process seemed to be extremely slow. In the land of the river source, Ma Chenxi still did not have a path. At this time, he had already realized that something was wrong. Thinking of the situation at that time, Ma Zhongshan increasingly felt that the appearance of Sixth Brother Lei was a bait. Could it be that someone really set up a trap to kill the fourth young master? If that was the case, then the appearance of sixth brother Lei just now meant that the fourth young master had already. Ma Zhongshan did not dare to continue thinking about it. If that was the case, Ma Zhongshan knew very well what it meant to the Tenma people, and he knew even more clearly what it meant to him. No, he had to think of a way to shirk responsibility. Even if he didn't have any responsibility in the first place, he couldn't become a target, or a scapegoat, when the clan leader was furious or when he failed to find the culprit. The other party had deliberately planned to murder the fourth young master, and had obviously made preparations to deal with the aftermath. Now that sixth brother Lei had fallen, this matter was even more unclear. Ma Zhongshan, be careful! An exclamation awakened Ma Zhongshan from the previous scene. The moment Ma Zhongshan raised his head, he saw Xie Tianyang suddenly thrust a long, thin, iron needle-like flying sword towards Ma Zhongshan's head in an unexpected way. Ma Zhongshan sucked in a breath of cold air, and hurriedly summoned his magic treasures to defend himself. Fortunately, Xie Tianyang was only one person, while Ma Zhongshan was surrounded by almost all of the Tenma people who entered the river source. A few of the Tenma people's cultivators worked together to save Ma Zhongshan from Xie Tianyang's sneak attack. Ma Zhongshan, who had entered the state of being impervious to cold and heat, didn't know how many years it had been since he tasted bone-piercing cold. After unleashing one attack, Xie Tianyang rapidly broke free from the encirclement of the Heavenly Pegasus clan cultivators. Although the Heavenly Pegasus clan cultivators had numbers on their side, they were helpless against Xie Tianyang's actions. For the sake of the Wyrm bloodstone in Ma Zhongshan's possession, Xie Tianyang had utilized various methods to kill off 2 Heavenly Pegasus clan cultivators and badly wound 4 others. Ma Zhongshan had also thought about entering the fog array, but after entering the fog array, the Tenma people's only advantage in numbers would be lost. Ma Zhongshan didn't have the confidence to protect the dragon blood stone by himself in the fog array. However, Xie Tianyang's attack, which was the closest to success in the past 2 days, not only didn't make Ma Zhongshan scared, but it made him even more determined to protect the dragon blood stone in his hand. Now that Ma Chenxi hadn't appeared, it was very likely that she had been killed. Ma Zhongshan, who strongly advocated not to help Ma Chenxi, was the perfect scapegoat. If Ma Zhongshan wanted to live, the only way was to bring the dragon blood stone out. Xie Tianyang's almost unscrupulous sneak attack made Ma Zhongshan realize the value of the dragon blood stone in his hand. This stone in his hand meant that the Tenma people would have another person like Patriarch Ma Zhen. As long as he brought the dragon blood stone out, he would be the hero of the Tenma people. The Tenma people wouldn't come back empty-handed this time. Even if the Patriarch hated him, he wouldn't kill him in front of everyone. Ma Zhongshan couldn't help but cheer up. The most important thing now was to raise the morale of the surrounding cultivators and win their hearts. After all, in the past 2 days, rather than protecting the dragon blood stone in Ma Chenxi's hand, it was better to say that they were protecting his life. No matter what, they couldn't let Xie Tianyang's sneak attack scatter their hearts. Layers of halos peeled off from the fog barrier not far from Lu Ping. Lu Ping knew that the reopening of the river source was imminent. The roar of spells constantly rang in his ears. Some cultivators couldn't wait any longer, and wanted to forcefully break through the barrier. 5 days later, it was finally time for the Mist Array's barrier to open. Lu Ping braced himself, and his eyes glowed with a green light, ready to strike. His divine sense was already like a flood, pressing against the Mist Array's barrier. He was waiting for the barrier to open so that he could escape as soon as possible. He couldn't afford to attract the attention of the Heavenly Pegasus cultivators who had already gathered outside the Mist Array. Bang! 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 There were already impatient cultivators who broke through the weakening barrier and rushed out. Lu Ping didn't do that because he didn't want to attract the attention of the cultivators of the Tenma people too early. At this moment, Lu Ping seemed to suddenly remember something. He stretched out his hand and wiped his face. A ripple-like fluctuation spread out, and Lu Ping suddenly appeared with another face. Bo! A soft sound rang out. Lu Ping's spirit was roused. Sam Ling and sixth brother Lei had already been taken into the Golden House. His divine sense suddenly felt relaxed and immediately rushed out of the fog barrier like a flood. Lu Ping frowned slightly, but he didn't slow down. The boat turned into a blue light and rushed out. Why weren't there any cultivators of the Tenma people? Strange, even the Koi clan didn't appear? This was different from the scene that Lu Ping had imagined of the Tenma people coming out in full force to find the murderer who killed Ma Chenxi. When Lu Ping rushed out of the fog barrier, not only did his divine sense not detect the cultivators of the Tenma people, but even the cultivators of the Koi clan didn't appear. How was this possible? Lu Ping was shocked and uncertain, but the light under his feet didn't slow down or increase. There were still more than 10 cultivators who rushed out with him. Lu Ping followed these people's light and flew towards the east. Something was wrong. When Lu Ping's divine sense circled around his surroundings, he seemed to find something wrong. His heart trembled. The situation around him was very strange. There was someone hiding. However, the other party's ability to hide was very brilliant. If it wasn't for the fact that Lu Ping had a divine sense that was stronger than that of an early Dharma adept, he definitely wouldn't have found out. However, even if Lu Ping found something strange, he only found some clues. He didn't find the cultivator who was hiding. What a brilliant concealment technique! Lu Ping felt a chill in his heart, but he didn't dare to show it on his face. He just followed behind a few cultivators who were also heading east. His whole body was secretly on guard. If anything went wrong, he would run with all his might. At this moment, a strong sound of wind whistling came from the fog barrier behind Lu Ping. It was the sound of a cultivator who was using his full speed to escape. When cultivators were flying, they would usually use their spiritual power to reduce the sound of this kind of whistling. Otherwise, every cultivator flying would be like swaggering through the streets. But now, someone had actually rushed out of the fog barrier like this. It must be because they were in a hurry and couldn't care less about many taboos. Or perhaps they had some other purpose and wanted to attract attention. Indeed, the sound of the whistling could be heard, and many cultivators looked behind them curiously. Lu Ping's heart skipped a beat, and he also slowed down and looked behind him. At this time, if he flew away without looking back, it would definitely arouse suspicion. Lu Ping was afraid of the person hiding. Although he had changed his appearance, if the person hiding was really a Dharma adept, it was hard to say whether the technique would work. Ma Zhongshan flew out of the fog barrier in a hurry. The moment he saw the outside world, he could not help but let out a long sigh of relief, as if he felt that he was safe. In the end, Ma Zhongshan still escaped into the fog barrier under Xie Tianyang's endless attacks. However, Xie Tianyang did not know how, but he was still able to find traces of Ma Zhongshan in the fog barrier and chase after him. Fortunately, there were many spaces in the fog barrier that were not fixed. As long as Ma Zhongshan felt that something was wrong, he could jump, and Xie Tianyang would be able to find him for a period of time. Just like that, Ma Zhongshan managed to survive Xie Tianyang's pursuit. However, after Ma Zhongshan rushed out of the fog barrier, his expression changed immediately. The reason why he made such a loud whistling sound while flying was to attract the attention of the Tenma people who came to help. However, it was different from the many Tenma people who came to help him. There was not a single person outside the river source. Only a few dozen cultivators who came from the river source were hurriedly leaving. How could this be? Ma Zhongshan's face suddenly flashed with panic, and at the same time, there was a sound behind him that was even louder than his previous whistle. That was the sound of a sword. Ma Zhongshan's face showed a fierce expression. He turned around and used the treasure in his hand to block with all his might. Ding! Ma Zhongshan was sent flying by the sword light that flew out of the fog barrier, and he spat out a mouthful of blood in midair. The sword light disappeared, and Xie Tianyang strode out of the fog barrier. "Kid, how dare you!" An angry shout came from the void. Ma Zhongshan's face was full of joy, and he did not care about his internal injuries as he shouted, "Elder Mali, the stone of dragon blood!" A door flashed, and an old man with white hair and beard suddenly appeared behind Ma Zhongshan. Xie Tianyang was about to chase after him and finish him off with a sword, but when he saw the old man suddenly appear, he gasped and stopped immediately. At the same time, a treasure that could not be seen clearly rose from behind Xie Tianyang, and a purple light firmly protected it. Both of his eyes were shining, and no one knew what he was thinking. To be called an elder among the Tenma people, one had to be a mid-Dharma adept. Who would dare to watch the show? The surrounding adepts who had slowed down to watch the show immediately dispersed. Lu Ping suddenly understood. How could the Tenma people be indifferent to the death of the chief's son? They just sent someone more powerful. However, Lu Ping did not dare to slow down. Who knew if there were more Dharma adepts of the Tenma people hiding in the surroundings? Now that the old man's attention was attracted by the stone of dragon blood, if he did not leave now, when would he? It was just a pity that Xie Tianyang would not be able to escape from the pursuit of a mid-Dharma adept of the Tenma people. Chapter 802. Despite the appearance of the Tenma people's mid-Dharma adepts, Lu Ping was still a little puzzled. Although the mid-Dharma adepts were powerful, there were hundreds of adepts coming out of the river source, and they left in all directions. Instead of sending a few Dharma adepts to search for Ma Chenxi's murderer, it would be more practical to send a few hundred Tenma people's core forging adepts to surround and intercept them. Lu Ping was more and more certain that something must have happened among the Tenma people. Otherwise, when it was related to Ma Chenxi's death, the Tenma people would definitely not only send Dharma adepts to rescue them. Lu Ping's divine will had already sensed that Ma Zhongshan, who was saved by the Tenma people's Dharma adepts, had handed a blood stone to the old man. At the same time, he kept saying something, but there was no trace of joy on the old man's face as he held the blood stone in his hand. Instead, his brows were furrowed more and more tightly. Then he saw the old man open his mouth to ask something. Suddenly, Ma Zhongshan's expression changed drastically, as if he was scared stiff. Then, he immediately shook his head vigorously, as if he was trying to explain something. Then the old man sighed and did not say anything more. Instead, he looked at Xie Tianyang, who had been waiting for him for a long time, a few dozen feet in front of him. Without asking, Lu Ping could guess that Ma Zhongshan seemed to be taking the blood stone to show off in front of the old man. But obviously, the old man was not here for the blood stone, but for other reasons. After that, Ma Zhongshan obviously learned about Ma Chenxi's death from the old man, which was why he was so scared that his face turned pale. Then, he should be trying to get rid of his responsibility, and it seemed that the old man also believed what he said. This guy was quite quick-witted. Such a thought popped into Lu Ping's mind, but the conveyance light under his feet began to slowly accelerate. Such a big thing had happened. Ma Zhongshan would definitely report in detail to the old man about what happened at the river source. Then, his performance at the river source this time would definitely attract the attention of the Tenma people, and he could not rule out the possibility that some people would look at him suspiciously. After all, with Ma Chenxi's strength, there were only a few people who had the ability to kill him. As Lu Ping walked away, a strong wave of spiritual power suddenly rose behind him. Lu Ping knew that it was the Middle Dharma Tenma people elder who had fought with Xie Tianyang. Xie Tianyang had indeed hidden a part of his strength. If not, how could he have lasted so long in the hands of a Middle Dharma adept? However, the opponent's cultivation was much higher than Xie Tianyang's, after all, so it was only a matter of time before he was defeated. But Lu Ping had a feeling that even if Xie Tianyang was defeated, he would not fall into the hands of the Tenma people. This person must have a trump card. After all, he was one of the 6 great swords of the Xiang Palace. How could he have a lack of life-saving items? Just as Xie Tianyang and the Tenma people started fighting, 3 other heavy waves of coercion suddenly rose from 3 other directions at the river source. At the same time, these 3 waves of coercion began to move rapidly towards the battle behind Lu Ping. When these 3 waves of coercion rose, Lu Ping's heart trembled. Another 3 Middle Dharma adepts. What the hell were these Tenma people up to? At this time, Lu Ping could no longer care about concealing anything. He thought that the Tenma people elder would not notice him in the battle with Xie Tianyang. Hence, the light of the cross-ocean boat increased. After he had condensed the deception technique into a remarkable talisman and the spiritual gathering ground, Lu Ping's evasion technique had improved again. In the blink of an eye, he had covered a distance of more than 100 feet. At this time, the strong wave of spiritual power behind him suddenly quietened down. Lu Ping knew that there was an 80% chance that Xie Tianyang had used a life-saving technique passed down by his sect to escape. Xie Tianyang was not that stupid to play with fire in front of 4 Middle Dharma adepts like Laozu. On the outskirts of the river source, the Tenma people elder looked in the direction where Xie Tianyang had disappeared with an expressionless face. Ma Zhongshan carefully came behind the elder and asked in a low voice, "Elder?" The elder did not turn around and only said in a low voice, "Zhongshan, you did well this time. Even when the 4th brat was not present, you were still able to protect a piece of flood dragon blood stone from the proud disciple of the Ziyang Palace. When we return to the clan, the old man will report this to the clan leader." Hearing this, Ma Zhongshan's eyes flashed with joy, but then he sighed and said, "It's a pity that the 4th young master was too fast that day, and we were unable to catch up. Otherwise, if we had helped him, perhaps the 4th young master would not have been harmed by the scoundrel." The elder snorted coldly and said, "That brat was a rare genius of our clan, even comparable to the clan leader of the past. However, he was arrogant and despotic, and had no respect for anyone. The clan leader also indulged him a lot. These few years, our clan seemed to be expanding rapidly, but a lot of it was because of the trouble he caused. Our clan is now almost the public enemy of the Western Wilderness, so it's a good thing that he died. Otherwise, who knows how many people will attack us from behind when we are defending against Mara's invasion." The elder's words stopped in Ma Zhongshan's ears. He was happy at first, but then he was shocked and asked anxiously, "Mara's invasion, then the disaster of Mara has spread to the Western Wilderness, and even threatened our clan?" "It's not just that," a voice sounded out. A Tenma people cultivator who looked slightly younger than the elder in front of him kicked the space door in front of him, and walked out. He looked at Ma Zhongshan and said, "The suspended-eyed white-fronted tiger clan is finished. This time, the disaster of Mara is very strange. It actually knows how to pick on the soft persimmon first. News has come from the clan that cultivators from the Yuan clan have entered the Western Wilderness. The clan leader has already sent people to welcome them, and they must welcome the cultivators from the Yuan clan to our Pegasus clan before the Ping clan." Ma Zhongshan looked at the elder who was walking over and said in shock, "What, Elder Ma too, the suspended-eyed white-fronted tiger clan is finished? How is that possible?" The battle between the Tenma people and the suspended-eyed white-fronted tiger clan had lasted for thousands of years. Both sides could be said to be in a state where one side would not rest until the other was dead. The Tenma people schemed and finally gained the upper hand in the battle between the two clans, causing the strength of the suspended-eyed white-fronted tiger clan to continuously decline. But even so, the Tenma people still did not dare to start a war of extermination against the suspended-eyed white-fronted tiger clan. Aside from many other factors, the main reason was that the suspended-eyed white-fronted tiger clan was, after all, a top clan. Even if they were on a decline, a starving camel was still bigger than a horse. The Tenma people naturally did not want to fight between two tigers. Not to mention, there was the golden-winged Ping clan in the Western Wilderness, and the Khoi clan that had always occupied the Yulon River was not easy to deal with. Who knew if they would suddenly come ashore in the upper reaches of the Yulon River? But now, this clan that the Tenma people feared so much had been exterminated just like that. How could this not cause Ma Zhongshan to tremble with fear? Mara was able to exterminate the suspended-eyed white-fronted tiger clan so easily. Most likely, even the Tenma people would not be a match for him. Elder Ma too, who had just arrived, glanced at Ma Zhongshan, then turned to Elder Ma Li, who was in front of him, and said, "Mara has come with far greater ferocity than before. If we are not careful, even our clan will suffer heavy losses. At this critical moment of life and death, the Patriarch has sent the four of us to the river source to find the murderer of Ma Xiaoxi. This is really... When Elder Mali glared at him, Elder Ma too had no choice but to swallow the words he was about to say. When he spoke again, he had already changed the topic. Fourth elder brother, fifth elder brother and seventh younger brother have already inquired among the clan disciples who have come out of the river source. This time, there are only 3 people who are on par with Little C. Aside from Li Tong of the Koi clan and Xie Tianyan of the Purple Sun Palace, the others such as Zhang Jiming and Lei Lao are all a level higher than Little C. Furthermore, it seems that these people have no chance of killing Little C. This is strange. Could it be that there are other experts hidden in the river source that have not been discovered? Elder Mali made an sound and said indifferently, "There are crouching tigers and hidden dragons in the cultivation world. Even though Little C is overflowing with talent, he may not be invincible among cultivators of the same level. However, you just said that there are 3 people who are on par with Little C in this river source. Who is the third person?" Ma Tu looked at Ma Zhongshan, who was standing quietly to the side, and said, "Speaking of which, this is a bit unexpected. This person is actually a cultivator from the North Sea called Lu Xianping. His sword skills with dual swords are most likely not inferior to Xie Tianyang's. It is said that during the fight for the Flood Dragon Bloodstones, he killed Lei Laolu with 1 strike. At the same time, he also chopped a green sea snake that Lei Laolu had kidnapped into meat paste. However, this person seems to have become the biggest winner of the river source this time. Out of the 7 Flood Dragon Bloodstones, 3 were destroyed by him, and 2 were taken by him. As for the remaining 2, 1 is in our hands, and the other was taken by Li Tong of the Koi clan from the Western Desolate Palace." Green sea snake? Elder Ma Li's brows furrowed into a knot. It seemed that the appearance of the green sea snake had caused many things to be out of his control. However, he immediately asked, "Is it possible that this Lu Xianping is the murderer of Little Four?" Elder Ma Tu hesitated for a moment and said, "Little Four was lured away by Lei Laolu. After that, Lei Laolu returned and took the opportunity to snatch the green sea snake while Li Tong and Xie Tianyang were fighting. Instead, he was mistakenly killed by Lu Xianping, who rushed over from another direction. From this point of view, Little Four's death does not seem to have anything to do with him, but in terms of time, there is a slight possibility. It's just that although Lu Xianping appeared in front of everyone a moment later, it was only a moment of time. Among the cultivators of the same level in the cultivation world, who could kill Little Four so quickly and cleanly? If it was said that in the cultivation world there were a few cultivators of the same level who could surpass Ma Chenxi, the 2 Tenma people elders Mali and Ma Tu believed it, but if it was said that Ma Chenxi could be killed in an extremely short period of time, these 2 elders did not believe it. No one could know Ma Chenxi's strength better than them. Where are 5th brother and 7th brother now? Elder Mali seemed to have thought of something and asked Elder Ma Tuesday. 5th brother and 7th brother. One is following Li Tong, and the other is chasing after Lu Xianping. With Little Four's strength, he most likely died in the trap of everyone's encirclement. However, the 2 Flood Dragon Bloodstones on Lu Xianping are also things that our clan must obtain. Elder Mali nodded in affirmation of Elder Ma Tu's arrangements. However, he heard Elder Ma Tu murmur to himself, "This is really strange. Since when has the North Sea been able to cultivate such talents?" Chapter 803. Although the North Sea training world has always been known as the desert of the training world, this does not mean that there are not 1 or 2 decent talents in the North Sea. Elder Mali seemed to have thought of something and seemed to refute Elder Ma Tu, but he also seemed to have thought of something and mumbled to himself. "Oh?" Elder Ma Tu asked curiously. "Fourth brother, do you know people from the North Sea? That was hundreds of years ago. If those 2 were still alive, they would at least be the leaders of their respective sections." Elder Ma Tu's expression only lasted for a moment before he recovered, as if that distant memory had long become shallow in his mind. I'll go chase after that Xie Tianyang first. Although that kid used the rainbow transformation talisman to escape from the Ziyang Palace, he still escaped from the old man's hands. If others find out, they won't say that it was the rainbow transformation talisman. They will only say that he escaped from the hands of the Tenma people's mid-dharma adept, Mali. The old man can't afford to lose face like that. After saying this, Elder Mali's body suddenly turned into a thin piece of paper and disappeared into a crack in the void. Elder Ma too thought of something and said, "Fourth brother, that kid can be punished lightly, but if he kills him, we won't be able to answer to the Ziyang Palace." There was no reply in the void, and Zhou Dongwang did not know if Elder Mali had heard what he had asked of him. Elder Ma too turned back to look at Ma Zhongshan and suddenly smiled. He said, "Kid, you're quite quick-witted and lucky. Come back with me first." Lu Ping finally understood what it meant to have extreme joy turned to sorrow. Looking at the four great azuras below him and the demonic cultivator hovering in the sky above him, Lu Ping seemed to understand why there were no cultivators from the Tenma people, the Koi Karp clan, the Western Desert Temple, or the other sects at the source of the river. Just as Lu Ping felt that he had escaped the attention of the mid-dharma adepts of the Tenma people, Lu Ping immediately flew towards the east at full speed. However, before he could fly for more than 2 hours, he crashed into the ambush formed by the Shura and the Shuras in front of him. A large lotus flower flashed beneath Lu Ping's feet, and a crystalline curtain of light shone from the bottom to the top. A black flag hovered above his head, and a bluish-purple curtain of light shone from the top to the bottom. The two curtains of light intertwined to protect Lu Ping. Earlier, Lu Ping had relied on the combined protection of these two magic treasures to block the combined attack from 5 Mara. How could there be such a coincidence? This was already the hinterland of the Western Desert. If Mara appeared here, did it not mean that the situation in the Western Desert was even more serious? The Tenma people and the Koi Karp clan might have already been suppressed by Mara and retreated to their old nest. It was no wonder that the Tenma people could only send a few Dharma adepts to receive them, while the Koi Karp clan did not send anyone to receive them. It was obvious that the situation had already developed to a serious stage. Moreover, from what Lu Ping could see, the reason why the Tenma people could send 4 mid-Dharma adepts to receive them was probably because of the cause of Ma Chenxi's death. This was also the greatest revenge that the head of the Tenma people could do for his son. Although he had not been focused earlier, the fact that the Mara could hide from Lu Ping's divine will and let Lu Ping run into the ambush was not a simple thing. Feeling the overflowing spiritual power around the bodies of the Mara, Lu Ping knew that this battle was not going to be easy. This was because he needed to win within a short period of time. Whether it was the poison in his body or the threat of the Dharma adepts of the Tenma people, Lu Ping needed to leave the Western Desert as soon as possible without any delay. Fortunately, at this time, Lu Ping was not fighting alone with Lu Ping. The moment Sixth Lei was released by Lu Ping, he shouted, "No way, you've been surrounded by Mara?" Then, as if he had suddenly thought of something, he exclaimed, "Mara? Why is Mara here?" Lu Ping was annoyed that Sixth Brother Lei's character had suddenly become so shallow after joining him. At this moment, Sixth Brother Lei no longer had the calmness that a bandit, an assassin in the cultivation world should have. Without saying a word, Samling rushed towards one of the Shuras. Each of these 4 Shuras had the power of a human practitioner at the 9th, or even the peak of the core forging stage. Samling should be able to deal with one of them together. Of course, the premise was that these 4 Shuras did not have a very good coordination with the demonic Shuras above them. However, the cruel reality still made Lu Ping's heart sink. Samling's first attack had been repelled by the Shuras. If it were not for Lu Ping's timely intervention to intercept the Shura's counterattack, Samling would have been seriously injured. Only then did the 3 spirits realize how little experience they had. Although Sixth Brother Lei was making a ruckus, his feet did not move at all. Instead, he was carefully observing the situation of the Shuras around him, as if he was pondering something. "Damn, I've never heard of Mara having such a good coordination. How can it be different from the inheritance? These Mara are very smart. When Lu Ping heard sixth brother Lei muttering to himself, a thought flashed through his mind. Putting aside sixth brother Lei's profound cultivation base, the way he acted, the way he executed his divine arts and spells, his speech and temperament all indicated that he was not an ordinary wandering cultivator. His cultivation base clearly came from an extremely brilliant and rigorous inheritance. Even if he was not from a famous sect, he had obtained a rather complete inheritance system. However, at this time, Lu Ping would not deliberately ask about this. Lu Qiner also flew out from the House of Gold, stretching her beautiful wings with all her might. Staying in the House of Gold without seeing the light of day for the past few days had been very stifling for her. After coming out, she did not pay attention to the surrounding shuras. As for De Bao, Lu Dagre, Lu Taohua, and Zilan, their strength was still too low. If they came out in this kind of situation, they would obviously be a burden. Even if Lu Ping wanted to train everyone's ability to adapt to actual combat, this was not the time. I'll make a move first and temporarily disrupt the coordination of these Mara. Then Brother Lei will deal with 5 shuras. Bayer, with the combined strength of the 3 of you, you should be able to suppress 1 shuras. Qiner, hold the line and pay attention to Brother Lei. As soon as Lu Ping finished speaking, everyone felt a turbulent divine sense form around Lu Ping to form a barrier around them. Obviously, it was to prevent the sneak attack of the shuras. At the same time, a bolt of lightning came down from the sky. Under the fearful gazes of the Mara, it fell towards the shuras that were wrapped in a black fog. A sharp cry rang out from within the black fog. A clump of black fog quickly condensed into a strange black bird with a pair of wings in the air. The strange bird raised its head to the sky and let out another mournful cry. A black beam of light shot out from the strange bird's mouth and collided with the lightning descending from the sky. The moment the black beam of light came into contact with the lightning, it quickly melted like black snow under the sun. Lightning magic was indeed the most powerful magic technique to counter the Mara. However, this black beam of light was clearly not ordinary. Although it was broken by the lightning magic that Lu Ping used through the 7 treasures lightning gourd, the black beam of light itself was more than half corroded by the black beam of light. The remaining part of the lightning was dissolved by the other shuras before it could even land on the head of the shuras. Lu Ping looked at the strange bird on the head of the shura's head. The fear in his heart increased. This shuras could condense the black fog into a strange bird. It was obvious that its gold core had already begun to nurture its Dharma power. Its cultivation had clearly reached the peak of the core forging realm, and was only 1 step away from becoming a blood demon. Lu Ping didn't expect this shuras to also be able to cultivate Dharma power. He just didn't know whether this shura's Dharma power would be a Luan or a Ping. Lu Ping's attack had clearly shocked the headless Mara. The divine sense barrier that enveloped everyone suddenly shook violently. Lu Ping's face was a little pale. He didn't expect the shuras to be able to counterattack so quickly. However, it was not beyond Lu Ping's expectations. With Lu Ping's help, Sam Ling, Lu Qiner, and Lei Lao were able to quickly attack the shuras without being attacked by the shura's divine sense. The 5 of them worked together to stall the 2 shuras. Without waiting for the other 2 shuras to attack, the beautiful autumn sword had already taken care of them. At the same time, Lu Ping waved his hand, and 2 more bolts of lightning fell from the sky towards the shura's head. They didn't give the shuras any time to breathe. These 2 bolts of lightning were the Yin lightning of Kuei Shui and the Yin lightning of Gung Jin. They were the 2 most powerful single-attribute lightning techniques in the 7 Thunder Treasures calabash. Lu Ping cast the water seep sword skill, and the impenetrable sword rays firmly controlled the 2 demon luos, preventing them from paying attention to anything else. As a result, Lu Ping and the others were able to break the intricate battle formation formed by the 5 demon luos. Lu Ping slapped his head with his left hand, and the 7 Thunder Treasures calabash appeared behind Lu Ping. 3 more bolts of Yin Earth Lightning, Yin Wind Lightning, and Yin Ice Lightning fell. The Shura's soul-devouring ability was completely suppressed by Lu Ping. Lu Ping reached out with his right hand, and a small banner appeared in his hand. He waved it at the Shuras, and the already thin black mist suddenly began to violently churn. A shrill scream rang out again, and the black mist suddenly exploded in all directions. A pitch-black, malevolent-looking, and blood-red-eyed Shuras appeared. Although lightning techniques were the most effective against Shuras, if a cultivator could easily defeat a Shura's soul-devouring ability, it would undoubtedly be a great blow to the Shuras. Unfortunately, Shuras were born with powerful and tenacious soul remembrance. If they didn't encounter someone like Lu Ping, who couldn't be judged by common sense, it would be impossible for them to have the upper hand against the Shura's spiritual will. After dispersing the black mist around the Shura's abilities were basically halved. The Shuras clearly realized that the situation wasn't good. Instead of turning around to run, it roared and charged at Lu Ping. However, Lu Ping could sense that the Shura's true target was the small banner in his hand. Lu Ping sneered in his heart. Just as the Shuras was about to reach him, a golden light suddenly slashed out. The Shura's head still had a sinister smile on its face, but the Chanlu's sword had already flicked again, and the Shura's soul-devouring crystals were already in Lu Ping's hand. Chapter 804. Killing a demonic Azura that was only one step away from becoming a blood demon so easily not only messed up the formation of the other 4 Azuras, but even 6th Brother Lei was shocked. In particular, the lightning spell that descended from the sky made 6th Brother Lei secretly wonder how many more tricks his new master had yet to use. Lu Ping killed the leading Azura with a lightning strike. The remaining 4 Azuras immediately realized that something was wrong and turned to escape. However, there was no way Lu Ping and the others would let them do as they wished. The Samling's combined strength was enough to completely suppress the weakest Azura. Lucina let out a long cry and spread her wings, blocking a Azura that was trying to escape from 6th Brother Lei. Then, 6th Brother Lei went up to hold it back. Lu Ping's dual flying swords were all transferred to Azura that was starting to fight for its life. However, before the other Azura could escape, Chanlu's sword had already slashed towards the Azura's head with an unparalleled sword chi. The Azura did not expect Lu Ping's reaction to be so fast. However, the Azura was already very powerful, and it was also a wind Azura. It spun around and turned into a cloud of sand that scattered in all directions. For a moment, no one knew where the Azura was hiding. However, Lu Ping's Chanlu's sword did not stop at all. Instead, the sword light became even sharper and greater. Lu Ping flipped the sword over and slapped down with the back of the sword. Sharp sword chi shot in all directions, and painful roars could be heard from all directions. Layers of sand gathered, and when the wind Azura reappeared, it was already riddled with holes. Although it had dodged Chanlu's sword's flying slash, just the aftermath of the sword chi had caused it to be heavily injured. When it looked at Lu Ping again, its gaze was filled with fear. However, it saw a trace of contempt and mockery in Lu Ping's eyes. Before it could wake up from Lu Ping's gaze, it did not notice that behind Chanlu's sword, there was a hidden wave that was concealed by Chanlu's sword's sword force. The wind Azura's eyes suddenly widened. When it looked down, a blue flying sword had pierced its chest. The flying sword then stirred, and a huge hole appeared in its body that had been pierced. Layers of sand appeared on its body again, but this time, Chanlu's sword arrived first. The wind Azura's head flew high into the air, and its entire body suddenly collapsed into a gust of wind that blew in all directions. However, Lu Ping caressed the air casually, and the wind in the air immediately calmed down. A sand-like object condensed in Lu Ping's hand. This was the companion magic treasure that the wind Azura had condensed. After the wind Azura had died, it had become a superior refining spiritual material. It was a pity that the wind Azura did not grow into a blood Azura. Otherwise, this companion magic treasure would have become a companion spiritual treasure. After being modified by a refining grandmaster, it could also unleash the power of a 7th or 8th tier spiritual treasure in the hands of a cultivator. Of course, if there really was a blood Shura, most of them would not be a match for it, let alone think about killing it. At this time, the other 3 Azuras no longer had the power to resist the combined forces of Lu Ping and the others, and were beheaded by Lu Ping and the others. It seems that many things have happened in the past 5 years. I just don't know how big the Mara disaster is in the Western Wilderness, whether it has spread to other places, and what is the current situation in the North Sea. Lu Ping watched Lu Linger happily put away the companion magic treasures of the Azuras, and could not help but feel worried. Before he left the Yingshan Immortal Academy, although the Mara there had been weakened after the battle at the Abundant Jade Swamp, it was still the first place in the entire Central Plains where the Mara disaster broke out. In a few years, no one knew if there would be a large number of Mara there. I don't know about other places, but it seems that the situation in the Western Wilderness is not good. Otherwise, the Pegasus and Koi clan would not have ignored the opening of the river source. Sixth Brother Lei looked around for a moment before continuing. Logically speaking, we should have already stepped into the territory of the Green Hill Foxes from where we are right now. Moreover, we're already deep into the territory of the Green Hill Foxes. However, not only have we not discovered a single patrolling fox along the way, we've even been ambushed by the 5-headed demon. Looks like the situation of the Green Hill Foxes isn't very good. Even if they haven't been exterminated, they're probably trapped on Green Hill. Lu Ping knew that 6th Brother Lei had come to the Western Wilderness from the Central Plains to avoid the disaster, so he was more familiar with the Western Wilderness than himself. Since he said so, the situation should not be wrong. However, when Lu Ping heard him mention the 9 hill foxes, he thought of the little sand fox he had encountered when he first came to the Western Wilderness. He did not know how it was now. Hopefully it could survive this catastrophe. However, when he parted with the little sand fox, he had discovered that there were high-grade cultivators of the Fox clan rushing over, presumably looking for the little sand fox. In this case, the little sand fox should have some status in the Fox clan. With the protection of a high-grade fox, its chances of survival were undoubtedly much higher, unless Green Hill was also captured by Mara. After Lu Ping opened the door of the House of Gold and sent Samling and the others back, he did not rush to leave. Instead, he patted his chest, and Linglong came out from behind Lu Ping. Lu Ping looked at Linglong with some distrust and asked doubtfully, "Is it really possible?" Linglong glared at Lu Ping and suddenly jumped up, saying, "What's with that look? If you don't believe me, then forget it. I don't want to waste the effort. Isn't it better to directly use your qi in the core space of your heart to nurture it?" Lu Ping didn't know whether to laugh or cry as he looked at the little girl. In the end, he could only say, all right, I'm just ignorant and inexperienced. I've never heard of anyone being able to absorb spiritual energy from Mo Luo to form a spirit meridian. This matter sounds too shocking. How come I've never heard of such a thing in the cultivation world for more than 10,000 years? And I've never heard you mention it before?" Linglong raised her head proudly and said, "It's all because your cultivation level is too low. If you had the cultivation level of the Dharma stage, Linglong's body would not have taken so long to fully recover, and Linglong would not have to wait until now to realize that she still has a method to form a spirit pulse from Mara. However, in the world of cultivation, Linglong is not the only treasure that can absorb qi from Mara to form a spirit pulse. It's just that these treasures have been kept for themselves, and no one else knows about it." Lu Ping narrowed his eyes and pondered for a moment. Then, he asked Linglong in a deep voice, "Linglong, do you know anyone in the cultivation world who knows of such a method to extract the spirit vein from Mo Luo's body?" Linglong rolled her eyes and said, "Where else? The 5 Holy Lands definitely know about this method. What about the other sects?" "Other sects? I don't know. Probably none. I can't remember." Lu Ping nodded thoughtfully. After all, the artifact spirit of a treasure had not become a natural spirit. As time passed, the artifact spirit would lose its spirituality. A few thousand years was enough for Linglong to forget many things. In reality, if Linglong had not been brought out of the Yingtian dojo by Tianlin Laozu, in another few hundred to 1,000 years, Linglong's spirituality would have been destroyed. At that time, Linglong's wine cauldron would have become a spirit-nurturing treasure again. Only after a treasure had gone through 3 thunder tribulations would it become a pure yang treasure. The artifact spirit would accumulate enough pure yang qi, and then the artifact spirit would be able to merge with the body and become a natural spirit, possessing all the instincts of the demon clan and the human clan. However, in order for a treasure to overcome the thunder tribulations, it would need the help of a cultivator. A treasure could not cultivate on its own and could only accumulate power through the nurturing of a cultivator. Although Lu Ping did not learn from Linglong about the sects that had the means to condense a spirit vein from Mara, Lu Ping could instinctively sense that there was something hidden. If this was exposed, it might be able to lead to something extraordinary. Shaking his head, Lu Ping put these thoughts aside and a palm-sized wine cauldron appeared in his hand. Tossing Linglong's wine cauldron up, Linglong transformed into a beam of light and entered the wine cauldron. Next, the wine cauldron began to slowly spin in the air. Invisible fluctuations spread out from Lu Ping's divine sense. Immediately, Lu Ping felt faint waves of spiritual energy gathering towards Linglong's wine cauldron. Asuras were bloodthirsty and demonic cultivators devoured souls. However, regardless of whether it was an Asura or a demonic cultivator, they all had a common characteristic: spirit devouring. When Mara was hiding, he would often find a spirit vein and devour it to recuperate. Because of this, every Asura was a condensation of spiritual energy essence. After an Asura or demonic cultivator died, aside from returning to their original source, the spiritual energy essence within their body would gradually disperse. In a short period of time, the spiritual energy near the place where Mara died would significantly increase. After the calamity of Mara, the surviving Mara would often find spirit veins in desolate places and hide there. The cultivation world would also often encircle and annihilate the surviving Mara on a large scale. Every time they found a place where Mara gathered, it would mean the discovery of a spirit vein. Therefore, after every Mara calamity, the cultivation world was always able to quickly recover its strength. The reason for this was the discovery of these spirit veins. Linglong's wine cauldron originally had the effect of condensing spirit veins. However, this effect lasted for too long. If the wine cauldron targeted these fallen Mara, the time for the wine cauldron to condense spirit veins would undoubtedly be greatly shortened. After half a day, the wine cauldron stopped spinning. Linglong came out of the wine cauldron dejectedly. Lu Ping quickly asked, "How is it? How much have you condensed?" Linglong said angrily, "How much? Only a quarter, and only a quarter of a miniature spirit vein." Lu Ping was stunned and instinctively said, "Only a little?" As soon as Lu Ping said this, he knew that he had said something wrong. Sure enough, Linglong immediately became unhappy and said loudly, "What do you mean by only a little? If you have the ability, kill a blood Asura now. I will immediately condense a complete miniature spirit vein for you." Chapter 805. Although Lu Ping thought that one blood Shura could only condense one complete mini-spirit meridian, he still hurriedly waved his hands and said, I was wrong. But what exactly is going on?" Linglong's anger had not dissipated, and she naturally said unhappily, "Who asked you to be so weak? If you had the cultivation of the Dharma stage, your body could at least condense half of the mini-spirit meridian just now." This was already the second time that Linglong had complained about Lu Ping's low level of cultivation, and Lu Ping could only listen. The power of a spirit treasure could only be unleashed in the hands of a Dharma adept. Normally, a late core forging adept who could use a spirit treasure was already considered an elite. Like Lu Ping, who could unleash 70% to 80% of the power of a spirit treasure, even some early Dharma adepts with weaker forces might not be able to do so. It seemed that he really needed to increase his level of cultivation. It was just that he had only trained for a little more than 100 years, and he was already at the 9th level of the core forging stage. There was still a long way to go from the 9th level of the core forging stage to the peak of the core forging stage, and advancing from the peak of the core forging stage to the Dharma stage was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. The amount of effort needed to advance from the peak of the core forging stage to the Dharma stage might be equal to the amount of time he had spent on training. Even so, advancing to the Dharma stage with a little more than 200 years of cultivation was still an unattainable height in the world of cultivation. Lu Ping temporarily put aside his thoughts and said to Linglong with a smile, "It's not that the amount of spirit meridian that Linglong can condense is too little, but that these Mara are too weak. A few Mara equivalent to a late core forging stage can only condense half of a mini spirit meridian at most. This is too weak." Lu Ping paused, then continued, "Even the blood Shura and the blood demon are too weak. Even if I advance to the Dharma stage, I can only condense 2 mini spirit meridian." Linglong interrupted Lu Ping angrily and said, "Even if you advance to the Dharma stage, the spirit meridian that you can condense from the blood demon's body is at most a miniature spirit meridian." Lu Ping was stunned and said, "Why? Didn't you just say that you can condense one from the blood Azura now? If you wait until I advance to the Dharma stage." Linglong let out a cold snort and said in embarrassment, "It's not because of you. It's because of Linglong's true body." Seeing that Lu Ping was a little stunned, Linglong continued to explain. "Right now, Linglong is only a spiritual treasure that has gone through the first thunder trial. At most, her true body can condense 1 mini spirit meridian. No matter how many Mara there are, it won't be enough. If you can help Linglong go through the second thunder trial and become a second tribulation spiritual treasure, then Linglong's true body can condense 1 small spirit meridian. If it has gone through the third thunder trial, as long as there are enough Mara corpses, Linglong can condense a medium spirit meridian." Lu Ping was a little excited and then asked, "What if you continue to grow and become a pure yang magic weapon?" Linglong seemed to hate her master's ambition and said grumpily, "Who knows? If you have the ability, ask Ape Taoist. It is said that all the magic weapons that can condense spirit meridian are passed down from Ape Taoist's spiritual iron. At the beginning of the world, it is said that Ape Taoist used his own spiritual iron to determine the spirit meridian of the world. And the spiritual iron is said to be a pure yang magic weapon. The spiritual iron is ranked 4th among the great magic weapons of the beginning of the world, second only to Ping Doran's 7 treasures Thunder Calabash, Xiao Doran's spiritual sword, and Ape Taoist's furnace of fate. Determine the spirit meridian of the world?" Lu Ping looked at Linglong in a daze, as if he had just realized that Linglong also had such a powerful bloodline. He said, "Doesn't that mean you can also become a spiritual iron in the future?" Linglong couldn't remember how many times she had rolled her eyes. "We are just imitations. We want to become a pure yang magic weapon like the spiritual iron. Even we don't know. Anyway, after the 7th patriarch of the world of the beginning of the world, have you heard of anyone who upgraded their magic weapon to a pure yang magic weapon?" Linglong paused, feeling that Lu Ping had not been shocked enough. She added, "There is also a 7 treasure Thunder Calabash in your core space, which is a scourge. When other spiritual treasures face the thunder tribulation, they can be abandoned by their masters even if they can't pass it. It rarely hurts the people who help the spiritual treasure pass the thunder tribulation. Although the 7 treasure Thunder Calabash is powerful, it itself is a target that attracts thunder. In history, it has implicated many of its masters in the thunder tribulation." Lu Ping subconsciously used his divine thoughts to penetrate the core space. At this time, he found that the 7 treasure Thunder Calabash was obediently revolving around his Jindan, as if it had heard what Linglong said. It seemed to be a little more tranquil than usual. Lu Ping sighed inwardly. For a moment, he didn't know whether he should be happy or worried. He could only say, "The cart will cross the mountain when it comes to the mountain. Let's take one step at a time." Several days later, Lu Ping finally got rid of several waves of Mara's attacks in the vast grassland. He once again came to the small town where he had just entered the western wilderness. Linglong also gradually gathered enough spiritual qi to condense 2 small spirit meridians. This small town had not been affected by Mara's attacks, but it was already in a state of panic. Many of the small town's cultivators spontaneously organized themselves. At the same time, many cultivators sent by other sects formed an alliance with the Western Wilderness Palace in preparation to resist Mara's attack. This time, the strength of Mara's attack had clearly exceeded the expectations of all the cultivators in the Western Wilderness. It could be said that the strength of his attack had swept through the entire Western Wilderness. There were already several demon clans that were quite powerful in the Western Wilderness that had been exterminated. One of the 3 royal clans, the Hanging Eyes White-Fronted Tiger clan, had their lair captured by Mara. It was unknown how many of their bloodline would survive. Otherwise, the Hanging Eyes White-Fronted Tiger clan would most likely become extinct. The other 2 royal clans, the Heavenly Horse clan and the Golden Rock clan, were also unable to fend for themselves. After Lu Ping entered the small town, he met many familiar faces of the cultivators that he had met at the river source that day. It seemed that they had also broken through Mara's ambush from the depths of the grasslands and had come to this small town to temporarily rest and reorganize. In the small town, the opening of the river source this time had long been in uproar. Ma Chenxi's death was no longer a secret. The battle with Xie Tianyang, Li Tong, and Ma Chenxi had established the reputation of Lu Ping from the Northern Sea. At the same time, he had killed Lei Laolu and snatched the Flood Dragon Bloodstone, which made his reputation even more legendary. Other matters such as the appearance of the Green Sea Snake, the descent of the 4 mid-Dharma adepts of the Tenma people to the river source, and their pursuit of Li Tong of the Khoi clan, Zhang Jiming of the Western Wilderness Palace, and Xie Tianyang of the Purple Sun Palace were also described in detail. Li Tong and Zhang Jiming both had the support of the Khoi clan and the Western Wilderness Palace, but they had suffered some losses at the hands of the 2 mid-Dharma adepts of the Tenma people before they were rescued by the Dharma adepts of their respective forces, Laozu. Xie Tianyang, on the other hand, was miserable. The Purple Sun Palace was famous, but it was far away from the Western Wilderness. Xie Tianyang's abilities were displayed to the fullest under the pressure of Ma Li Laozu of the Tenma people. It was said that he had already been caught by Ma Li Laozu 3 times, but he had escaped from him 3 times. In the end, although Xie Tianyang was in a sorry state, every time he managed to escape from Ma Li Laozu, his reputation grew. On the other hand, Ma Li Laozu, a veteran mid-Dharma adept, was in an even more difficult position. Now, he had almost become the laughing-stock of the Western Wilderness. Even if he managed to capture Xie Tianyang, it would probably be difficult for him to salvage the reputation of his clan. However, he could not stop now, and the 2 of them were still wandering around the grasslands of the Western Wilderness. However, it was said that the news had already reached the Purple Sun Palace, and there were already great powers of the Purple Sun Palace rushing towards the Western Wilderness to receive Xie Tianyang. Now, everyone was discussing whether Xie Tianyang could hold on until the great powers of the Purple Sun Palace arrived. Lu Ping had only been in the small town for half a day, and he had already understood most of the many things that had happened in the Western Wilderness. However, he did not expect that the situation in the Western Wilderness would suddenly become so complicated because of the river source and the disaster of Mara. Moreover, he had undoubtedly played a role in stirring up the various forces that had stirred up the situation. There was a teleportation portal in the small town, and this was also the reason why the practitioners who had gathered in the small town had the courage to fight with Mara. After all, if things went south, they could just abandon the small town and use the teleportation portal to escape. The reason why they wanted to fight with Mara was because the disaster of Mara was a catastrophe for the entire world of practitioners, and it could not be avoided even if they wanted to. The practitioners in the world of practitioners were aware of this as well. It was just that Lu Ping could not use this teleportation portal to escape. He knew that the place where the teleportation portal was opened was often the most heavily guarded place. Every practitioner who used the teleportation portal would be subjected to many tests, such as formations, rare treasures, and high-level tests. With his current magical ability to deceive everyone, he could deceive most practitioners when they were not paying attention, but if he wanted to pass the test of the teleportation portal, he did not have the confidence to do so. And at this time, his reputation was ridiculously high. Just the 2 flood dragon blood stones on him were enough to attract several Dharma adepts to besiege him to death. Now, in the situation where rumors were flying everywhere, there were various versions of the cause of Ma Chenxi's death, and many of them were splashing dirty water on him. However, this dirty water did not wrong him at all, and he did not think that when the time came, these people would give him a chance to refute. There would always be xenophobic hearts. Now, there were already many people who were indignant. A practitioner from the barren land of the North Sea, who knew what kind of dog Shastra's tea luck he had, to actually obtain such a great reputation and benefits. Where would these heroes of the Central Plains and the Western Wilderness be placed in? Right now, Lu Ping suspected that once his identity was exposed, he was afraid that there would be no need for the Tenma people or the high-level practitioners from other sects and clans to come forward. These practitioners around him would immediately surround him and beat him to death. And now, he was resting in the small town for a day or two. These few days of rushing about and fighting not only caused Lu Ping's true yuan to not be able to fully recover, but more importantly, his mental exhaustion needed to be alleviated, not to mention the hidden danger of consuming the yuan burst pill. Lu Ping leisurely wandered in the small town. At this time, because the atmosphere of the war was getting closer, the market of this small town was even more prosperous. Lu Ping picked a lot of spirit herbs from the market. Speaking of which, Lu Ping himself had not opened the Na Chuan cauldron for many years. He did not know if his alchemy skills had become rusty. GG. Lu Ping had just bought a rare 3,000 years old spirit herb from a street stall at the price of a 1,000 years old spirit herb, when he heard a somewhat familiar sound, and Lu Ping could clearly feel that this sound seemed to be directed at him. Chapter 806. Lu Ping looked in the direction of the voice. It was a shop that sold spirit pets of the monster race. Lu Ping secretly cursed. The Western Wilderness was a situation where the monster race was strong and the humans were weak. The human race only had one large force, the Western Wilderness Temple, while the monster race had 3 royal clans. Although the Tiger clan was now a Raal tiger that had fallen, the Khoi clan was actually considered half a royal clan in the Western Wilderness. Under such circumstances, the owner of the shop still dared to open a monster pet shop in a human town that was not very strong in terms of protection. This meant that either the owner of the shop was stupid, or he had an extremely strong background that allowed him to ignore the threat from the monster race of the Western Wilderness. Of course, in Lu Ping's view, it was obvious that the latter possibility was almost all. Lu Ping looked at the place where the voice came from. Near the door frame of the shop, in a 3-foot-high spirit cage made of high-grade spiritual materials, a small sand fox was anxiously roaring at Lu Ping. It was this little guy. Lu Ping did not expect that he would not be eaten by Mara, but instead be captured and sold to the monster pet shop. The little sand fox in the cage was actually the blood condensation little fox called Tu Chun that Lu Ping had caught when he first entered the Western Wilderness Prairie. He also learned about the situation at the source of the river from the little sand fox. Lu Ping looked at the little sand fox with interest. Lu Ping could see the hope, anxiety, and even a trace of despair in the little sand fox's eyes. The little sand fox had helped him before, so he should save it. However, the Western Wilderness Prairie had long been Mara's world. The Fox clan was probably trapped in Qingqiu Mountain and could not even protect themselves. Even if he redeemed his freedom from the upper bunk, where could he go? Lu Ping walked forward, and immediately a servant in the late blood condensation realm came out from the upper bunk. He said happily, "Senior, are there any monster pets you like? Please feel free to choose, our shop will definitely give you a fair price." Lu Ping saw that the servant was clever, so he directly threw a mid-grade spirit stone and said, Let's go to your shop and see if we can find a suitable one. When the manservant saw Lu Ping's generous rewards, he smiled happily and said, Senior, please bring the small ones. Our shop may be small, but we have a wide variety of goods. Other than the 3 royal clans of the West Barren Grassland, we have almost everything you need from the monster clans. Lu Ping shouted and inadvertently glanced at the forbidden spirit cage that held the sand fox. He said, You sure talk big. Lead the way and introduce them to me one by one. Lu Ping followed the manservant around the shop and listened to the manservant's introductions. Sure enough, a sparrow may be small, but it had all the essentials. There were already 7 to 10 types of high-grade monsters in the shop. Naturally, there were even more mid-grade and low-grade monsters, all of them in the blood condensation realm. This trip lasted for 4 hours, but Lu Ping only listened and didn't buy anything. Fortunately, the manservant was patient. With a mid-grade spirit stone as a reward, even if the deal didn't go through, he would still be able to make a profit. Lu Ping still wanted to continue and asked, Why aren't there any monsters with higher cultivation? Could it be that I can't afford the spirit stone? The servant smiled apologetically and said, I dare not hide it from Senior. It is not that there are no core forging monsters in our shop. It is just that after these monsters advance to the core forging stage, it is extremely difficult to tame them. Only some special methods can be used. In addition, the town's defense is simple, so if Senior wants to buy core forging monsters, then you can only go to Western Wilderness City. Western Wilderness City was the largest human cultivator settlement in the Western Wilderness, and it was also the location of the Western Wilderness Temple. It seemed that this shop dared to openly sell monsters of the prairie, so it must have the support of the Western Wilderness Temple. Lu Ping walked towards the door in a somewhat dejected manner. It seemed that he was a little disappointed that he did not find a suitable spirit pet. However, just as Lu Ping was about to step out of the door, his eyes inadvertently saw the forbidden spirit cage placed in front of the shop. Suddenly, as if he had just recognized the cage, he turned around and asked the servant with a smile, Is this the forbidden spirit cage? Senior's eyes are like a torch. This is the forbidden spirit cage that can imprison the cultivation of monsters. Oh, that means the fox inside should also be a high-ranked demon beast, right? But what's going on with this tiger monster? Is it possible that there is a high-grade tiger monster in the Western Wilderness Prairie? Senior must be joking. The servant quickly explained. In the Western Wilderness Prairie, except for the Hanging Eyes White Forehead Tiger Clan, the rest of the Tiger Clan are all low-grade monsters. Few of them are capable, so of course, they are not qualified to enter the forbidden spirit cage. It's just that when we caught this sand fox, this baby tiger happened to be beside us, so we caught it together. However, we didn't expect that this little sand fox would insist on staying with this baby tiger. Along the way, this little sand fox also took good care of this baby tiger. But this baby tiger seemed to be very careful and didn't dare to overstep. It followed behind this sand fox and never caused any trouble. Seeing that Lu Ping was interested in listening, the servant continued to say, It's strange. There have always been a fox assuming the majesty of a tiger, but what I've seen these days is the opposite. It's a tiger assuming the majesty of a fox. Lu Ping listened and chuckled. His eyes occasionally glanced at the tiger monster, but there was no trace of a smile in his eyes. Instead, there were a few strange green lights flashing from time to time. The so-called self-concealment of divine objects was an almost instinctive magical power adopted for fear that they would be destroyed and killed prematurely before they fully grew up. However, this kind of secret skill was mostly mastered by the top-grade monster clan. Just like when Sam Ling had not yet transformed, if he was not very familiar with the green sea snake, how could he recognize that the 3 snake monsters raised by Lu Ping were actually green sea snakes? Of course, Lu Ping would not expose him. Instead, he asked, The Fox clan is smart, and the Sand Fox is the main bloodline of the Green Hill Fox clan. Although this Sand Fox is not as good as the top-grade monster clan, its intelligence and dexterity have always been not bad. I'll reluctantly buy this little sand fox as a boy to serve me." When the servant heard this, he knew that the business could be done. He hurriedly said, "Senior is wise. These years, in the cultivation world, it has gradually become a trend to use the demon pets of the Fox clan as serving boys. The reason is that the wisdom of the Fox clan has always been no less than that of the top-grade monster clan. After training, they are used to having good eyesight, so the price." Lu Ping glanced at the servant and said, "The price is not a problem, but I'm not a fool. If you dare to ask for an exorbitant price, I won't make trouble for this shop, but I have a 90% chance of making trouble for you." When the servant was glanced at by Lu Ping, he felt as if his body was suddenly pierced by tens of thousands of sword lights. His heart trembled for no reason. When he heard what Lu Ping said, his face turned red and white. Finally, he forced himself to calm down and laugh dryly. "Senior, you must be joking. How would I dare to do that? Besides, our shop has strict rules and has never suppressed our customers. It's just that this sand fox is a bit special. It's not that no one valued this sand fox before, but when this sand fox was sold, it insisted on bringing along this young tiger who is obviously a low-grade monster clan. Otherwise, it would rather die than submit, so—" Lu Ping looked at the small tiger hiding behind the sand fox. Not only was it as skinny as a stick, it also seemed to have no guts. It had been hiding behind the sand fox all along. It seemed that the saying of, "A tiger flaunts the power of a fox," was true. Lu Ping looked at the sand fox and then at the young tiger. He seemed to have suddenly changed from exuberant interest to melancholy. Obviously, he was weighing whether it was worthwhile to bring along a low-grade monster clan as a burden. The servant was already a little discouraged. The previous customers had all given up because of this, and it seemed that this one would not be an exception. Unlike the human clan, the demon clan was usually not flexible when it came to certain things, even if the intelligence of this sand fox was no less than that of a top-grade monster clan. Since this sand fox insisted on staying with this low-grade young tiger, it was impossible for other cultivators to abandon the young tiger after buying it. This would definitely cause discord between the sand fox and the cultivator, and it would be impossible to subdue it in the future. And if one really wanted to cultivate it, a low-grade monster was undoubtedly a bottomless pit. Even if they used several times the amount of pills and spirit stones, they might not be able to get much effect. Unexpectedly, Lu Ping seemed to like this sand fox very much. After hesitating for a while, he finally made up his mind and said, "All right, how many spirit stones?" "I will buy both of them." The servant was overjoyed and said, "In that case, Senior can just pay 1,000 mid-grade spirit stones. After all, this sand fox is considered a race with a high status in the West Wilderness grasslands. It is also a mid-stage blood condensation cultivator." Lu Ping nodded and said, "That's reasonable." With that said, he flipped his wrist and threw out 10 high-grade spirit stones. When the servant saw that they were actually high-grade spirit stones, he was immediately overjoyed. Although the Central Plains did not value high-grade spirit stones as much as the North Sea, when it was possible to pay with mid-grade spirit stones, they would never use high-grade spirit stones to pay. Along with the 10 high-grade spirit stones, there were 3 mid-grade spirit stones. Lu Ping said, "These 3 are for you. Just open the forbidden spirit cage." After Lu Ping entered the shop, the little sand fox no longer roared. When Lu Ping negotiated the price, it became a little excited. When the servant opened the forbidden spirit cage, before the servant could catch it, it jumped out first and circled around Lu Ping, scaring the servant. Lu Ping smiled and stretched out his palm. A golden door appeared and swallowed the little sand fox. Then, Lu Ping raised his head and looked at the skinny tiger slowly walking out of the forbidden spirit cage as if it was strolling. "This guy, does he really think he is the white-forehead Tiger King?" The servant laughed and scolded, but Lu Ping did not comment. Suddenly, he looked behind him and the golden door appeared again. Before the tiger could react, it was swallowed directly. "Wait!" an urgent cry was heard. A ray of light flew directly towards Lu Ping, ignoring the stares of the cultivators in the town. Seeing that Lu Ping did not notice and kept the tiger, the voice in the ray of light came again. "How dare you!" Lu Ping's expression turned cold. With a cold snort, the ray of light that was flying towards Lu Ping dissipated. A woman suddenly staggered out of the ray of light. When she looked at Lu Ping again, there was a trace of fear on her pale face. Chapter 807. Lu Ping glanced at the woman whose evasion technique had been broken by him, and slightly frowned. He then turned around and was about to walk out of the town. "Stop right there!" The woman's tone was a little angry, but there was also a lot of fear. It seemed that she had been startled by Lu Ping's cold snort. "Hand over that tiger demon!" Lu Ping glanced at her, and the woman immediately realized that her tone was tough, so she said, "I can exchange it for twice the amount of spirit stones." Lu Ping was infuriated by the woman's arrogance, but the latter part of her words made him laugh. So it turned out that she wasn't a shrewd person. But from the looks of it, she was usually arrogant and domineering. "Not exchanging!" Lu Ping also didn't want to cause any trouble in this small town. The situation in the West Baron wasn't looking good, and Lu Ping couldn't leave through the teleportation array. It was better to avoid unnecessary trouble. Unexpectedly, the woman did not learn from Lu Ping's warning. She hesitated for a moment, and when she saw that Lu Ping had already walked several feet forward, she quickly chased after him and said, "Fellow Taoist, I was impulsive just now. I really like that tiger demon and want to raise my own spirit beast. How about I give you 5 times the amount of spirit stones?" Lu Ping secretly cursed the woman for being brainless. Since she was aware of the tiger cub, she shouldn't have asked for it at such a high price as if no one else was around. She even gave such a far-fetched reason, which only made things worse. In the perception of Lu Ping's divine sense, the shop assistant who had just seen Lu Ping off at the door saw the woman's behavior. Sure enough, his complexion changed several times. He turned around and hurriedly walked into the shop. It was obvious that he wanted to inform the shop assistant and the shopkeeper. The passers-by also heard the woman's words, and they all looked at Lu Ping with deep meaning in their eyes. Fortunately, Lu Ping did not have his original appearance. As long as he left the town and changed his face, no one would be able to detect it. Lu Ping glanced sideways at the woman and sneered coldly. "Ridiculous!" A streak of light flashed beneath his feet, and even though he didn't fly up into the air, he was still quickly making his way toward the crowd. When had the woman ever seen someone give her such a look? Her pretty face slightly changed on the spot, and she was about to lose her temper. However, the woman still had some rationality, and in the end, she didn't point out the origin of the young tiger. Seeing that Lu Ping's figure was about to disappear in the crowd, the woman fiercely stomped her foot. Her body seemed to be dancing, like a butterfly dancing in the crowd. Although she was also flashing and weaving in the crowd, her appearance was extremely beautiful. Just as the woman gave chase, a few cultivators in the crowd immediately put down their wares and chased after the woman. After that, a slightly hunched old man with 3 long strands of beard walked out of the spirit beast shop. He looked like a shopkeeper in his 50s, and behind him was a young servant. It was the shop assistant who had previously brought Lu Ping to the shop to choose spirit beasts. The old man turned around and gave some instructions to the servant. After that, the servant kept nodding his head. After that, the old man reprimanded the servant a few more times before waving his hand at the servant. The old man himself seemed to be taking a stroll as he walked into the crowd of people in the town. Although the crowd of cultivators in the town was a great obstruction to the detection of cultivators' spiritual sense, Lu Ping could still use his powerful spiritual sense to understand the situation of the people following behind him. Lu Ping left the small town. Without the obstruction of the town's protective array formation, the light under his feet suddenly changed and he soared into the air. The ocean-crossing ship appeared beneath his feet and a blue light appeared in the sky. It was like a wound that was cut open in the sky, but it quickly healed and disappeared in a blink of an eye. When the woman walked out of the town, Lu Ping had already disappeared into the horizon. The woman was not discouraged, and instead smiled proudly. If it was an ordinary person, I'm afraid they would have been thrown off long ago. Unfortunately, you met me. Today, I'll let you know what I'm capable of. After saying that, she waved her hand, and an exquisite bag appeared. A 5-foot-long divine black panther jumped out of it. The woman pointed at the black panther's head and muttered something. When she withdrew her finger, the black panther seemed to have understood her command. It nodded slightly at the woman and growled in a low voice. Then, like a swallow, the woman sat on the black panther's back with one leg. The black panther lowered its head and sniffed at its feet. Then, it shot forward like an arrow, leaving only a series of afterimages behind it. After the woman left, several people left the town. However, after seeing the black panther summoned by the woman, many cultivators seemed to have guessed something and retreated. Only a few people lowered their heads and thought for a moment, then gritted their teeth and chased after the woman again. However, these people did not notice that at a corner of the town's wall, the shopkeeper was also frowning slightly as he saw all this. He muttered to himself, "When did the spirit-taming beast sect send such a young and inexperienced disciple to travel? There is no one beside him to guide him. Could it be that he is like the green sea snake? A descendant of the spirit-taming beast sect's elder secretly ran out to play, but how did he end up in the western wilderness?" After leaving the town, Lu Ping first went north, then suddenly west. He actually went deep into the western wilderness prairie. That was the direction where Lu Ping escaped from the river source. Now, more and more Mara appeared in that direction. After going hundreds of miles deep into the prairie, Lu Ping stopped the conveyance light under his feet and landed on the ground. He shook his hand and cut open the golden house, releasing the sand fox Tu Chun and the baby tiger. Previously, the baby tiger had been squatting on the ground, so Lu Ping could not see it. Now that the baby tiger came out of the golden house, Lu Ping's eyes lit up. Although the baby tiger was as thin as a stick and its hair was messy, it looked young, but in fact, it was huge. After standing up, it looked like it could be in a mess at any time, but it did not hide a sense of arrogance that came from its bones. If this guy was not born in the drooping eyes white-fronted tiger clan, then it was really strange. Lu Ping smiled slightly and sighed. Although this shop in the town was bold, its vision was really too poor. Lu Ping pointed at the little sand fox Tu Chun, and a spiritual net suddenly appeared on the deep body of the little sand fox. The spiritual net cracked, and the little sand fox exclaimed, "Ah!" Only then did it find that its cultivation had been restored, and it could speak human language. Lu Ping turned around and was about to remove the spirit-forbidden net on the baby tiger. However, the baby tiger suddenly turned its head and opened its mouth, revealing a pair of ungrown fangs. It looked back and tore at its body. The spirit-forbidden net also suddenly appeared, and then it was torn into pieces by the baby tiger under the admiring gaze of Lu Ping. However, the baby tiger's fur was more messy, and many places were even dripping with blood. However, it did not care at all. Instead, it stared at Lu Ping with a pair of provocative tiger eyes. The little sand fox on the side saw that the situation was not good. It tried to hide the worry on its face, but it greeted Lu Ping with joy. "Tu Chun greets Senior!" The little sand fox hurriedly bowed to Lu Ping, as clever as before. "Little guy, didn't your senior catch up with you at that time? Why did you run out again and get involved with this little tiger monster? Aren't you afraid of being recognized and peeled off your fox skin?" The Green Hill Fox clan was famous in the human cultivation world in two ways. One was the beauties of the Fox clan, especially the women from the Green Hill Fox clan. They were especially famous for their charm. However, after being suppressed and exterminated by the Tenma people decades ago, the Green Hill Fox clan had to announce the expulsion of the Green Fox clan. The Green Fox beasts died and dispersed. The second was the fur of the Fox clan, which was used by human cultivators to refine good talismans, talisman weapons, protective robes, and so on. The little sand fox obviously knew that many disciples of the fox clan were poached by human cultivators every year, and their fur was peeled off. It could not help but shiver when it heard this. However, this was not what frightened the little sand fox. What really frightened it was what Lu Ping had said before. He had left after discovering that a fox cultivator had come looking for him. This was what really frightened it. The fox cultivator who had come looking for him that day was his grandfather. He had the cultivation of the Dharma stage, and was also the existence of the Fox clan's ancestral fate. However, on that day, Lu Ping had been able to find his grandfather and avoid him, but his grandfather had not noticed Lu Ping beforehand. What did this mean? The person in front of it that day had not yet reached his current level of cultivation. At that time, he was only at the 8th level of the core forging realm, but in terms of spiritual power, he had even surpassed his grandfather, who had already entered the Dharma stage. How shocking was this? The little sand fox was about to say something, but it saw that Lu Ping suddenly frowned and made a silent gesture. Then he turned around and looked behind him. Just as the little sand fox was puzzled, there was suddenly a leopard's roar in the distant sky. The tiger standing behind the little sand fox suddenly stepped forward and protected the little sand fox behind it. Its white, yellow, and black fur suddenly stood up and it let out a long roar in the direction of the sound, as if responding to the leopard's provocation. "Ha ha, it's really here. Little Black did a good job. That tiger is really the sang-eyed white-fronted tiger." The woman's voice came from afar. By the time she finished speaking, a black shadow that was difficult to see with one's eyes had already left behind a black shadow and rushed toward where Lu Ping was. The woman leaped down from the Black Panther's back and looked provocatively at Lu Ping. "So you've already seen through this Black Panther's extraordinariness. No wonder you didn't want to give way to me and didn't want to say anything in front of others. It's because I made a fool of myself in front of you just now. I'm afraid I've attracted the attention of others." Lu Ping raised his eyebrows. He did not expect that this woman was not completely without redeeming qualities. However, he still had a non-committal expression. He wanted to see what the woman was relying on. How could she be so confident that she could take the tiger demon from him when he already knew the background of the tiger? Was she going to fight him head-on? Chapter 808. Since the background of this tiger demon is already known, I will not take advantage of you. The price just now was indeed a scam, but you'd better hand this tiger demon over to me. I am willing to give you 1,000 high-grade spirit stones. What do you think? 1,000 high-grade spirit stones was already a price that was enough to bribe a Dharma adept. This woman was really generous, bringing such a large sum of spirit stones with her. Was she not afraid of being robbed? This sum of spirit stones was enough to make a Dharma adept greedy. However, Lu Ping did not care. Now, he did not have too many extravagant demands for spirit stones. The spirit stones he had on him were already enough for him to practice. Now, what he valued were things that spirit stones could not exchange for. "Why, you think it's too little?" The woman frowned and said, "Don't be too greedy. 1,000 high-grade spirit stones is enough for me to bribe a Dharma adept to rob it. You should be able to see my sincerity clearly." Lu Ping smiled slightly and said, "Since I know that this tiger is from the single-eyed white-fronted tiger tribe, how can it be bought with spirit stones?" When the woman heard this, she did not refute it. After a while, she said, "What you said is not unreasonable. What do you want? I can try my best to satisfy you. However, you have to think clearly. This single-eyed white-fronted tiger is a top-tier demon clan and has a bloodline inheritance. If it is not handed over to a capable person, I am afraid that its top-tier bloodline will be wasted." When Lu Ping heard what she said, he was even more certain of her identity, so he smiled and said, "May I ask if you know Sang Yu, Jinren Sang?" Sure enough, when the woman heard the two words, Sang Yu, her expression immediately became very vigilant. She said coldly, "What do you mean?" Lu Ping pointed at the black leopard mount and smiled. "This is a flying cloud leopard, right? Although it's not a top-grade monster beast, it's rumored that it has some top-grade monster bloodline running through its veins. Since you're able to tame a late-core forging monster beast so obediently and have such confidence in raising young monsters, it's not hard to guess your identity." When the woman saw that her identity as a disciple of the spirit beast sect had been exposed, the practitioner in front of her did not seem to mind. She knew that he was not lying. The spirit beast sect was famous for being mysterious and vengeful in the cultivation world, but that was not the reason why the spirit beast sect practitioners were not liked by the practitioners. The person in front of her did not have any conflict with her identity as a spirit beast sect practitioner. It was obvious that this person's relationship with Senior Sangyu was not bad. When she thought of Senior Sangyu, the woman's originally carefree expression finally showed a trace of embarrassment. Lu Ping found this funny, but how could he know that the woman thought that Lu Ping had already known her through Sangyu? If that was the case, didn't it mean that Senior Sangyu had already tacitly approved of their relationship? She thought about how she had never received a direct response from Senior Brother Sangyu despite all the painstaking efforts she had put in over the years. Due to her identity as a woman, she did not have the face to question Senior Brother Sangyu to his face. She could only silently use her own actions to express her inner thoughts. However, Senior Brother Sangyu had never responded to her. Now she suddenly found out from Senior Brother Sangyu's good friend that Senior Brother Sangyu did not ignore her. This made the woman in front of her burst with joy. She thought to herself that it was worth it to follow Senior Brother Sangyu from the Central Plains to the Western Wilderness. Lu Ping did not know that his original guess had caused so many thoughts to flow through the woman's mind. However, he was unwilling to get entangled with this woman here. If Lu Ping's guess was correct, there should be someone with ulterior motives following behind her. However, Lu Ping's speed was not slow along the way. If the person following him was not strong enough, they would have been thrown off long ago. However, anyone who could keep up with Lu Ping was likely not simple. Lu Ping cupped his hands at the woman and said, "Since we've already made things clear, you should also know that I will not give up this tiger no matter what. I have some friendship with Senior Sangyu, so how about we let this matter go? I still have important matters to attend to, so I won't accompany you any longer." Lu Ping turned around and was about to leave when the woman suddenly thought of something. She hurriedly said, "Fellow Taoists, please wait. I am Wu Yinglan. May I ask how I should address you? Do you know where my Senior Sang is currently?" Lu Ping was taken aback. He said, "My surname is Lu. I have met Senior Sang several times in Hebei and fought together with Senior Sang. I am quite impressed by Senior Sang's cultivation and strength. However, I do not know Senior Sang's whereabouts. From the looks of it, you should be from the same sect as Senior Sang. How come even you do not know Senior Sang's whereabouts?" Wu Yinglan's face turned red when she heard this. Only now did she realize that the person before her and Senior Sang had only met by chance. Right now, he was merely testing her with words. She did not expect that she would actually take it seriously. Wu Yinglan smiled and said, "Are you talking about Senior Lu Xianping from the Yingshan Immortal Academy that I met in the lush jade swamp? Senior Sang's eyes are always at the top of his head, and he only admires Senior Lu Xianping. I did not expect Senior Lu Xianping to also come to the Western Wilderness." Lu Ping's heart stirred when he heard this, and he said, "Oh? Has Brother Sang also come to the Western Wilderness?" Immediately after, Lu Ping seemed to think of something, and he asked in realization, "Is it because of the annihilation of the Hanging Eyes White Forehead race?" Although the Spirit Beast Taming sect was famous for its military prowess, it was not well liked by the humans and demons. This was why the disciples of the Spirit Beast Taming sect kept a low profile despite their absolute strength. There were two main reasons why the cultivators of the Spirit Beast Taming sect were not well liked. One of them was that whenever a demon race was annihilated, the spirit beast taming sect would immediately pounce on them like flies that had smelled fresh blood. Although the extinction of these races was not due to the spirit beast taming sect, the spirit beast taming sect would wantonly search for the members of these races who were left behind when they were annihilated. To the outside world, this was to glorify the continuation of these races, but in reality, the members of these races had all become the subordinates of the cultivators of the spirit beast taming sect. Both the humans and demons were famous in the world. How could the spirit beast taming sect expect the demons to be nice to them just because they captured and trained the cultivators of the spirit beast taming sect for nothing? This time, the hanging eyes white forehead race was the first to bear the brunt of the disaster caused by Mara. Most of the high-level cultivators in the race died in battle, so some tiger demons who were left outside would definitely attract the great interest of the spirit beast taming sect. Moreover, the hanging eyes white forehead race was a top-level demon beast that inherited the bloodline of Taoist Hu, and could be said to be the most ideal spirit beast for the spirit beast taming sect. In this case, as the most outstanding disciple of the spirit beast taming sect in this generation, it was naturally reasonable for Sang Yu to appear in the West Wilderness. When Wu Yinglan heard what Lu Ping said, how could she not know what Lu Ping was thinking, so she said, "Our sect has indeed sent many cultivators to the West Wilderness, but this time, senior brother Sang Yu is not here for the hanging eyes white forehead race. He already has the primordial giant crocodile as his natal spirit pet, and will advance to the Dharma manifestation stage at any time. Although the hanging eyes white forehead race has a noble bloodline, it may not be stronger than the primordial giant crocodile. This time, senior brother Sang Yu is actually here for Yuan Feixiang." "Yuan Feixiang?" Lu Ping looked at the woman in front of him in great surprise and said, "Are the two going to fight again?" Wu Yinglan nodded and said, "A few years ago, they had a big battle. Although both sides were injured, Yuan Feixiang actually had the upper hand." Senior brother Sang Yu has always been arrogant, so how would he be willing to take advantage of others? Originally, senior brother Sang Yu was not among the people who entered the West Wilderness this time, but after hearing that the Yuan family had sent cultivators to the West Wilderness to help the Western Wilderness Demon Clan resist the disaster caused by Mara, and that Yuan Feixiang was also among them, I rushed here overnight. When Lu Ping saw that Wu Yinglan had said so much in one go, he knew that she most likely had something to ask of him, so he smiled and said, "Miss, if you have something that is difficult to say, feel free to say it. I have great respect for senior brother Sang, so if there is anything you need, I will definitely do my best." Wu Yinglan's expression relaxed, clearly relieved. Lu Ping was astonished, but he was even more cautious inside. At present, there were many forces competing in the West Wilderness, and there was also a great enemy like Mara. If he was careless and ended up suffering a great loss, he shouldn't expect Xinling to support him from behind. When cultivators from the spirit beast taming sect went out to train, other than the first time they were accompanied by someone guided by the sect, they would be alone in the cultivation world for the rest of the time. Unless they were killed, it was very difficult for them to receive help from the sect. In the battle between Sang Yu and Yuan Feifei had the support of the Yuan clan, while Sang Yu did not have the support of the spirit beast taming sect. When this woman found out that the person before her was actually Lu Xianping, whom Sang Yu held in high esteem, she immediately thought of inviting people to help her senior brother. Wu Yinglan was just about to speak when she saw the expression in Lu Ping's eyes suddenly change, and she hurriedly bit down on the words that were about to come out of her mouth. She then heard Lu Ping say in a clear voice, "May I know which fellow Taoist is here? Would you be willing to meet me? Hiding at the side will only cause others to look down on you." The woman's expression changed slightly. There was still someone following them at this time. It was clear that she had exposed herself, and Lu Ping had discovered her first. She naturally felt embarrassed, but then she thought that this also proved that this person was extremely powerful. Senior Sang Yu's words were not false. If she could persuade this person to help, Senior Sang Yu's battle with Yuan Feifei would not be interrupted by external forces. When Lu Ping saw that the hidden person still did not reveal himself, he sneered. A blue sword light suddenly appeared in the air several hundred feet away from Wu Yinglan. The sound of clothes tearing through the air could be heard, and an old man in his 50s who was dressed like a shopkeeper revealed himself in a rather sorry state. He flew several hundred feet back, but the front of his clothes was still cut by the sudden attack of the netherwater sword. The old man's expression of fear and panic had not yet faded from his face. His hands were already forming a series of hand seals, and two spirit-connected magic treasures appeared in front of him. Then, as if he still felt uneasy, he swept a horsetail whisk in front of him, and the sword chi of the netherwater sword that had followed him like a shadow was completely destroyed. It was a spirit-nurturing magic treasure. Cultivator of the Western Wilderness Palace, may I ask how I should address you? Why are you secretly following me? Wu Yinglan's expression darkened, and she opened her mouth to interrogate him aggressively. The old man cast a glance at the baby tiger in front of Lu Ping, and laughed dryly. Such a white-fronted baby tiger was actually bought by you for 100 high-grade spirit stones. You've gone too far with your transaction. Are you trying to bully the Western Wilderness Palace because there is no one capable? Hee hee! Lu Ping sneered and said, Are you going back on your word? Aren't you afraid of ruining the reputation of the Western Wilderness Palace? Beside him, Wu Yinglan was even more unbridled. These words sound so new. Since when did your Western Wilderness Palace have someone? The thing I hate the most in my life is people who bully others with their power. The black panther under her feet roared at the old man in coordination. The old man's expression changed, but he did not make a mistake this time. He exclaimed, Flying Cloud Panther, are you really from the Spirit Beast Taming sect? As soon as he finished speaking, the Black Panther had already turned into a bolt of black lightning, pouncing towards the old man. The old man had already been frightened out of his wits by Lu Ping's elusive slash earlier. Seeing that the two of them were clearly in cahoots, he was also wary of the Spirit Beast Taming sect's reputation. Thus, when he saw Wu Yinglan make a move, he actually turned and fled. This was out of Lu Ping's expectations. Although the Western Wilderness Palace was known as the #1 human in the Western Wilderness, it had actually declined a long time ago, and its cultivators were mostly spineless people who took advantage of others' misfortune. Lu Ping had not believed it at first, but now it seemed that it was true. Chapter 809. Yuan was here, and Mara was here. There was a joke in the world of practitioners, which basically meant that wherever a practitioner of the Yuan family appeared, the calamity of Mara would follow. Naturally, this joke was not true, and the practitioners all knew that the joke was actually reversed. The real situation was that whenever the calamity of Mara appeared, the Yuan family would always be the first to appear at the site of the calamity. The Yuan family had been able to become a family with a history of 10,000 years, known as the top family in the world of practitioners, and even win the respect of the 5 Holy Lands, not only because of their unparalleled thunder techniques, but more importantly because they had played the role of the vanguard in resisting the calamity of Mara in the world of practitioners. However, at this time, Yuan Feixiang felt as if he had spun a cocoon of his own. He would never have thought that his original plan to trap Sang Yu of the Spirit Beast Tamer sect in the middle of Mara's attacks would be so close to succeeding, but unexpectedly, 2 Dharma adepts suddenly rushed out from the middle of Green Hill, which was surrounded by a large number of Mara, and rescued Sang Yu from the encirclement of Mara to Green Hill. Due to the suddenness of the incident, Yuan Feixiang's backup plan had not been activated yet, and Mara, who had originally surrounded Sang Yu, had instead surrounded Yuan Feixiang, and the two sides immediately came to blows. Even though Yuan Feixiang's thunder and lightning techniques made the encircling Mara very wary, this time Mara also seemed to have made up his mind to kill this lone Yuan first of the 3rd generation. This time, he had outsmarted himself. He had never heard that the Spirit Beast Tamer sect had anything to do with Green Hill, and the identity of the Spirit Beast Tamer sect's disciples in the world of practitioners was very secretive. Why would the old man of Green Hill be willing to take such a huge risk for him? The puzzled Yuan Feixiang was very annoyed. Although the Yuan family was the top family in the world of practitioners, the spirit beast tamer sect had always been respected in the world of practitioners. When Yuan Feixiang realized that he had been followed by Sang Yu again, he could not openly lead the Yuan family to besiege him. After all, Sang Yu had challenged them in the name of a fair duel, and doing so would undoubtedly make the Yuan family and the spirit beast tamer sect completely at odds. Still, Yuan Feixiang and Sang Yu had a deep grudge, and so he simply set up a trap based on the information he received from the Tenma people, leaving the Yuan family on his own. As expected, Sang Yu had followed him here, and was soon caught in the siege of Mara of Green Hill. Even so, Yuan Feixiang never expected that Qingqiu foxes would risk their lives to break out of the encirclement to rescue Sang Yu, who was being killed. In the end, it was Yuan Feixiang himself who fell into the trap. What was the relationship between Sang Yu and the foxes of Green Hill that they would risk their lives to save him? Fortunately, the blood demons, blood Azuras, and most of Mara attacking Green Hill were held back by the foxes' mountain guarding formation. Most of those besieging Yuan Feixiang were great Azuras and demonic Azuras, who were at most equivalent to late core forging. Yuan Feixiang was known as the number 1 in 1,000 years of the Yuan family. Under such a siege, in addition to the natural restraining effect of his thunder and lightning power on the blood demon, he could hold on for a short period of time. However, he knew that if he did not break out of the siege in a hurry, once his Jinyuan ran out, or if the blood demon or the blood Shura came out, the only thing left for him would be death. Sang Yu stood on Green Hill, and behind him were 2 bedraggled practitioners. Clearly, they were the Dharma adepts of the foxes who had risked their lives to save him from certain death. But now, Sang Yu did not express his gratitude to the 2 behind him for saving him. Instead, he looked coldly at the white-haired, elderly foxes standing before him. "What is it?" There was a hint of bitterness in the elderly practitioner's smile as he said, "We haven't seen each other for more than 200 years, and you don't even recognize me as your grandfather? I am not a member of the foxes." Sang Yu's expression was cold, but there was a strange light in his eyes. It seemed that his heart was not as calm as he appeared. "But the blood of the Sand Fox clan flows in your veins." The 2 Dharma adepts of the foxes who had rescued Sang Yu from Mara's siege had left at some point. The elderly foxes suddenly leaned on the walking stick in his hand as he spoke slowly. "If that's the case, then why did I grow up in the spirit beast taming sect? Don't think that I don't know. I was picked up by my master after you casually abandoned me in the wilderness. You only deliberately revealed my background to me after I became a spirit beast taming sect Empyrean walker." Sang Yu's emotions were finally a little out of control, but his eyes were increasingly hidden. It seemed that this time, his emotions were exploding outwardly, but his innermost feelings were cold. "Alas, how can you know the reason? At that time, the Danglong White Forehead clan was declining day by day, and we, the Green Hill Fox clan, had lost the support behind us, so how could we still pretend to be powerful? The Pegasus clan was aggressive and would come up with all kinds of excuses to attack us at any time to cut off one of the Danglong White Forehead clan's arms. As the clan leader of the Fox clan, I naturally had to plan for the continuation of the clan. However, your mother and your father had secretly promised to marry each other at this time, and we also lost the secret." Seeing that the Pegasus clan was sharpening their knives and the extinction of the Fox clan was right in front of us, I had no choice but to put justice before family. Put justice before family? Haha, what a good way to put justice before family. Sang Yu smiled insincerely and said coldly, 200 years ago, I killed your daughter and son-in-law for the sake of justice. More than 100 years ago, the white foxes were wiped out. Decades ago, you pushed the Green Fox clan to the slaughter of the Tenma people. Your Green Hill was saved, and the clan leader is still the clan leader. But how many of the 9 branches of the Fox clan are left in your hands after all these years? What do you know, you filthy brat? I really don't know anything. I only know that the foxes are only living a peaceful life in your hands. If they keep compromising and giving in, how much fate will the foxes have left in the world of cultivators? Sangyu seemed to have seen through the old man's thoughts and sneered. You saved me today only because of my status as the spirit beast tamer sex Semperian walker. But I won't lie to you, this trip to Western Wilderness is a private one, and my sect doesn't know about it. You'd better put away your plan to rescue the Green Hill foxes while it's still early. No cultivators from my sect will come. The old man's hair and beard were standing on end, but his face was pale as if Sangyu had really seen through him. He pointed at Sangyu but could not say a word. In the end, he let out a long, bleak sigh and waved at Sangyu, saying, "Let's go. Go and recover your inner yuan. Once the siege on Mara is slightly lifted, you can just charge out. With your cultivation base, I'll hold back a few Mara beasts from the blood-lettered symbol. As long as you don't get surrounded again, those Mara beasts won't be able to stop you." Sangyu snorted coldly and turned to walk to the back, as if he was very familiar with Green Hill. Right after Sangyu left, the two cultivators of the Fox clan who had rescued him from Mara's siege appeared beside the old man again. Clan leader saying, that kid really can't get in touch with the spirit beast tamer sect? One of them asked worriedly. The situation before us is very unfavorable. Mara could break the mountain shielding formation at any time, and when that happens, our Green Hill would probably face a catastrophe. The other person added, this time, Mara's invasion of the Western Wilderness is fierce, and the suspended-eyed white-fronted clan is finished. What's strange is that while our Green Hill has some strength, it shouldn't have attracted Mara to come with such a large force. Isn't there something strange about this? The old man, who was also the Fox clan leader, pondered for a moment and said, when Mara first arrived at Green Hill, he was not as strong as he is now. Instead, he received two inexplicable reinforcements. Before this, the old man had heard a rumor that when Crouching Tiger Mountain, where the suspended-eyed white-fronted clan was broken, some of the suspended-eyed white-fronted clan's clansmen wandered outside, and Mara hunted them down. In this generation, they lost track of the suspended-eyed white-fronted clan, and could only meet up with Mara, who besieged our clan. The other reason is the land of the river source. The land of the river source? That's right. This time, the disaster of Mara is extremely strange. It seems that there is an extremely brilliant person secretly manipulating it, which is something rarely seen in the past. When the fox cultivator heard that the chief said, very few, but not none, it meant that there had been similar manipulations during the calamity of Mara previously. Hence, he asked in surprise, what's going on? Thus, he asked in surprise, clan leader, could it be that the disaster of Mara also seemed to be manipulated like this? But it doesn't make sense. Why didn't Mara besiege the Pegasus and the Golden Rock clans? Why did he come for us, the small Fox clan? The Fox clan leader said, the disasters of Mara in the cultivation world can be big or small. The big ones will sweep through the entire cultivation world, while the small ones will at least harm a region. But every time these disasters of Mara seem to be controlled by someone, instead of plundering the cultivation world randomly, the catastrophe that erupts will definitely sweep through the entire cultivation world, and no one will be spared. Looking at the confused expressions of the two, the Fox clan leader explained, the first reinforcements must have been because they were chasing after the suspended-eyed white-fronted clan, and the second chase might be because of the cultivators who have come out of seclusion at the land of the river source. The land of the river source? That's right. The old man nodded and said, the cultivators who can enter the land of the river source and come out alive are all young disciples with some ability. After Mara defeated the suspended-eyed white-fronted clan, he did not attack the Pegasus and the Golden Rock clans, but instead sneaked into the grasslands to kill the cultivators who came out of the river source. You must know that these cultivators are considered elite disciples in any sect, and they are extremely attractive to Mara, who feeds on fresh blood and will. Moreover, these cultivators do not have the protection of high-level cultivators from their respective sects, so they are naturally the best choice for Mara to obtain fresh blood as food, and they can also weaken the power of the human and demon clans in the future. So the reinforcements that came later must have come after they had completed their mission in the grasslands. The two Dharma adepts of the Fox clan looked at each other, but they could see the shock in each other's eyes. Mara was already as numerous as bees and ants, and he appeared and disappeared mysteriously without fear of death. If he also had intelligence, how would the cultivation world be able to survive this disaster? Just as the two of them were digesting the shocking words of the Fox clan leader, they saw the Fox clan leader suddenly frown and look into the distance of the protective mountain array. That kid has gone out. He really doesn't know what's good for him. Clan leader, are we still going to save him? You're tuning into the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.